Hello, hello. Oh, my dear friends. It's been a while since we pressed record, since February, and it's May. Oh my goodness. And we are coming back to a co co-host episode. Yeah, and we're
Yay.
gonna talk about GLP-1. So this episode will be on Sarah's podcast, and it'll also be on my podcast. So for everybody listening from Sarah's podcast, hello, I'm Jeta. I am a gut health practitioner, and I'm a NTPA nutrition therapy practitioner to be. And I am very food first. I use supplements, but that's like the last of the last of the last of the last. Very foundational health, very optimal health, very I want to teach you how to be so empowered that you have the capability to teach your kids and your kids' kids and your kids' kids if you live that long. So that's me.
I love it. All right. And I'm Sarah for Jetta's people. I don't have as many titles, so I'm just Sarah. It's just me over here. And I also work on the foundational health pieces that I call them the basics with women specifically, and get them back in the driver's seat of their health. So and that's why we're doing this co thing, because I don't have all those names at the end of my name. So all those symbols and letters and all the
Stop. You
things.
don't need to have any names, but you
I
are
know.
you do weight loss and you do major weight loss for people, which is
Yes.
why we're talking
Major.
about GLP-1, right? Because
Yeah.
our worlds in 2026 have collided. Weight
Yeah.
loss and peptides, and now people are using GLP-1s and peptides for inflammation. So I think this is the perfect recipe. So stop saying you don't have
Oh,
letters or anything after your name. You're amazing.
I know.
Own
And
up
your
to it.
name was like literally 3 minutes, like, and it should be. And that's why we're doing this, because again, I'm very scope of practice. So
Hmm.
this is
Yeah,
technically beyond my scope to talk about, or like to have, I wouldn't say meaningful conversation, but like actual factual conversation, right? So
exactly.
I'm all about scope of practice, and that's why you're on my podcast.
Holla, holla. Oh, and
Hello.
P.S. This is not the first episode we're recording together.
Nope.
This is the second or the third.
I think the third, because we did one for yours, one for mine, and now we're doing a collective.
Oh, all right. So you'll just,
Buckle up.
go ahead and search it all up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a good one today. I already have a feeling. I
Oh,
already have
for
a
sure,
feeling.
for sure, for sure. Um, okay, so let's just get like into it. GLP-1s. Are your clients using it? What's happening?
So I have clients that have considered it. I have
Yeah,
clients that have been on it. I have clients that take it for type 2. I have clients that have tried it, but it did not work, or they had extreme side effects. But I speak with women constantly who just think that this is the only answer, it's the only option. And honestly, I think it's just kind of being shoved down everybody's throat. I think I did a podcast not that long ago about my own intrusive thoughts about GLP-1. I'm like, oh, I could just do this. Like, because I think that even health coaches now are saying peptides and GLP-1s. And it's like, I think, and a lot of people, and maybe this is where we can start. I don't think a lot of people understand what they are and how they work in the body, because I hear all the
sure.
time peptides are just branched chain amino acids, but our gut already produces GLP-1, so it's no big deal. So like these are things that I'm constantly hearing. It's like, well, great, but that's a little bit different than what we're talking about. So maybe just understanding what is an actual GLP-1 and what does it do?
Yeah, so GLP-1, first and foremost, the one that is being sold is one from a glia monster, which is a lizard. So it's not from like humans, which is a big, big problem in GLP-1 longevity. When I say GLP-1 longevity, I mean quite literally, people are using them for years. And this is verbatim the same conversation that you and I have had for pills and supplements as well. I do believe, knowing what I know about GLP-1, and I just want to let everyone know, my lips did not form GLP-1 until I knew what the heck I was talking about. You know what I mean? And I think that's like the first thing is I am quote unquote behind on talking about GLP-1 But I will tell you, I'd rather be behind and factual than just tell you, hey, it's bad or hey, it's good, because there are definitely pros and cons, and we can definitely talk about them. I have plenty, but I'm going to try to stick to five. But there's plenty, and I did an entire Substack article. If you guys want to check it out, the Substack is Jetta's Digest, which is the same as my Instagram, Jetta's.digest. But it just is that GLP-1 and that we naturally have it. This is a fact. But I feel like what the wellness world is doing, and it's weird because we're part of that wellness world, and we're like, man, we should not like bite the hand that feeds us. That sounds wrong
Mhm.
too, but you know what I mean, right? Like
Mhm.
we are in part of this
Yeah.
community that's
Mm.
saying that, and I
Yeah.
don't want to be like, oh yeah, like the wellness world is like going down and like whatever, but I'm not vibing with the wellness world lately because it is so pharmaceutical vibes without the pharmaceuticals, and yet here we are, GLP-1, it's a pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
So I think it's just weird, and then we can get it all into like the conspiracy theory of like the Rothschild. They own the GLP-1 Glia Monster variations, things like that. So there's just like things about that. But coming back to like your question, it does occur in the gut microbe. The GLP-1, what it does is it is a really big part of the gut brain connection. I did 3.5 years of studying actually the gut brain connection at university back when it was like not a thing. And I decided to study it because I was like, there's something going on with me. Like knowing what I know about like my first 3 years of my life, knowing all the chronic symptoms that I've had since I was like born, right? Like I know that there was something there. And GLP-1 was one of the things that was kind of like brushed off because there hasn't been research about it. So I think that's the first thing that we need to very much consider, especially being a woman using GLP-1, is that we are on average 17 to 20 years behind in research. So the things that you are being diagnosed with, I want you to know that there's a lot of things like IBS, SIBO, PCOS. These are all symptoms. They are not diagnosis. And in my opinion, in my professional opinion, and I've been through the realms of Western medicine, I really do think it's lazy that the Western and the Eastern world have this right to say, hey, you know what? You have IBS, or hey, you have PCOS or SIBO or whatever, and it's just it's a cluster of symptoms. Now, when I say that, I mean that it is that you meet a criteria and a symptom list, and you need to meet both in order for a professional to say that you have XYZ, right? And so this is based off research. It is not based off of, I don't know, like, I think research is good again, but it's based off of the research that is quite behind. And so what is happening in the wellness world is that especially women, a lot of the things that are researched, they're not on women. And then the things that are researched for women are researched on rodents, and then they're also 16 to 20 years behind. GLP-1 is one of them. So this is so new, if you will, that 20 years from now, the information that we see about GLP-1, this episode, unfortunately, will age so well in what we will talk about today. So I don't know if I answered your question. I went like all around, but
Well, no, I mean it's important. So I think all there, like I wrote down all these things here. So there's two things. Is like what it actually does in our body, right? Because we said it's in the gut microbe, but it's there, right? So what is the difference between like what we create and
mhm.
and and again, like you and me, I'm very much like you. This is how I feel like why we connected so well because it's like cool. You were diagnosed with PCOS. You have all these, and I'm not cool as in like great, but like okay, now we know, we understand
Right,
there's things
right.
going on, but why? Right? So why does our gut not produce what we need for these GLP-1? Why does it not produce what in so that enough so that GLP-1 can do its job, which coming back to that, like what exactly is its job? Um,
Yeah.
but also, what do you say to people then that are like, GLP-1s have been around for 20 years. Like they have used these on type 2 diabetics for years. So how do we not have research?
Yeah. So the GLP-1, its main, like, I guess, in a nutshell, function is, again, coming back to the gut-brain connection, but one of the main things that it does is to help basically your bacteria and your gut microbe grow and thrive while also reducing the kind of bacterial imbalance that can actually come with things like obesity, blood sugar issues. Now we get into like insulin, things like that. So GLP-1 is indirectly for hunger and fullness cue. There are other enzymes that work with hunger and fullness cue, but that's kind of in a nutshell. It's almost like this like checkpoint
Hmm.
of, hey, you're really hungry. Hey, insulin, do your thing, while also connecting to your brain. And I think that's the part that a lot of people are saying. And again, these are getting into like the pros and cons, um, where people say that they feel emotionally flatlined on GLP-1. And the reason is because there's a negative feedback loop. A negative feedback loop. Okay, before I talk about this, I want you to understand that negative feedback loop is actually a very, very good thing. It is a defense mechanism that we have all throughout our body, right? And it is integrative through all of our systems, so like nervous system and cardiovascular, and all of the systems. And so a perfect example that I always use about a negative feedback loop is sweat. Sweat is something that if it's hot, we sweat, so we keep our body temperature, right? So we maintain homeostasis through sweating, right? The negative feedback loop on that same loop is also when we are cold, we shiver, so then we can maintain, right? So GLP-1 works on that negative feedback loop where we say, hey, there are things in my body. So instead of like hot versus cold, think about this as like hunger versus or feast versus starvation. Okay. And this is where we talk about like feast versus starvation from back in the day. Okay. Now, this is where we actually end up with GLP-1. So, if you look back on the history for all you like history fanatics, I love mixing history with wellness because we can learn so much from history. Right. And so coming back to your question about why are we so far behind if this has been used. So back in the day, there was feast and starvation phases, and in the feast and starvation phases, we have adapted this GLP-1 negative feedback mechanism. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Okay. And so in that GLP-1 loop, because everything in our body is a cycle, everything from our heart pumping to our bowel movement, to our menstrual cycle, to our circadian cycle, to even when we blink, that is a cycle. Everything has its own cycle because we are mammals, okay? And this is also in parallel with the seasons of the year. And every 7 to 10 years, we actually do a lot of shedding, quite literally. Skin shedding, emotional shedding. There's a lot of stuff. So all that motivation, think like motivation, think sadness and anger and all that stuff. These are all cycles. Of course, trauma is in there. Of course, it affects the way that we experience those emotions, but they kind of come in this wave sometimes, right? And so we gotta like think about like seasonal depression. This is a cycle that your body has been going through because it's an adaptation to something. So now we hear the word adaptation. And so, what would happen? There are two examples that I gave in the same Substack article. Is that the the feast and the hunger phases in life have a generational effect. And so, what they found, for example, in the Irish famine that happened, then there was a feast, right? And what they found is that those children that went through the famine, that then kind of were adult and then went through the feast, are actually shorter. And this is very, very important to understand that you can say genetics, but there's also a thing called epigenetics. And for Irish people that were actually much taller are now this generation, which would equal like our grandma and our grandpa, are actually shorter. And to even double up on that, because there was a famine and a feast on potatoes, on food, on culture, on a lot of things stopped. There's actually multiple research and multiple meta-analysis that actually speak on people from like the northern European countries because they survive so much on potatoes. They actually tend to be higher in gluten sensitivity because their body did not adapt to gluten. So there's like that part, right? So GLP-1 is an adaptation to the feast and the famine phases that countries and world and the systematically, right, has adapted. Okay, another example of this is in China, right? So in China, those kids that were going through it, they actually had more food sensitivities in general, right? And then we can go into like food sensitivity, we could go into that, but then the very interesting thing is that they actually in on a higher scale, they actually grew up to be more lactose intolerant. They grew up to be more higher in inflammation. They grew to this generation that now we're talking about maybe like our parents' age, where they actually have a hard time with food. Because that adaptation was rough on their body because they didn't have the biology, if you will, to say, okay, here are the things that we need to grow and to develop. But instead, what happened because of genetics and epigenetics is that this is actually a priority. So this is what we need to do. And so if you look at those cultures, if you look at just, and again, I'm just using this as an example, right? And we can come like I was born in Romania and then I lived in the US and now I live again in Romania and I see people that are chronically ill and people are quite literally asking me, how the heck do I have Hashimoto's if I eat literally, this is verbatim what a client just told me on Sunday. I saw her at church. And she goes, sometimes it's weird because I literally have Hashimoto's, I have migraines, my period is everywhere, and I literally, you and I get our milk from this guy over here. I can't say his name, but because autonomy and things like that. But he's our neighbor. And we see this cow. We literally wave to this cow every morning on our way to school. How is this possible? And so then you go into like inflammation markers, you go into this stuff, right? And so ultimately, that's what GLP-1 is. It's an adaptation through the feast and the famine that then was created, that then was passed down. And its main thing is to support us in growth and development, but also to maintain weight. So very similar to like how sweating and shaking is to maintain temperature. I want you to think of GLP-1 like that, is to maintain the hunger cues, the blood sugar, and I definitely want to talk about that a little bit later as we get on because that's actually a pro about GLP-1, but that can turn into a con. So yeah, that's kind of that.
That's interesting. And I talk a lot about like where I will have clients that be like, well, my mom had type 2, or my mom had high blood
Mhm.
pressure, or my mom had this or that. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean you have to get or you're gonna get. It just means that you might be a little bit more predispositioned. But also, where we're talking about like epigenetics, it's like, what did your mom teach you? How did your
Yep.
mom eat? How did your mom act? How did your mom like more of like the habits and the behaviors are going to play a bigger role in whether or not you get XYZ that your mom had versus just genetics. Because I don't know the actual percentages, but it's it's you like my parents like all the things that I'm trying to battle against is all those
Mm,
things. It's like I don't want to be pre-diabetic. I don't want to have
mm,
issues with my joints. I just because
yeah.
everybody else in my family had arthritis. Okay, I might have it or get it, but I want how do I mitigate it? How do I minimize it?
Yeah.
How do I do the best that I can? How do I set myself up now? So I feel like epigenetics is not really talked about. It's just like, well, my mom or dad had XYZ. Well, okay, that doesn't mean you have to have XYZ though.
Yeah, epigenetics, the way that I explain it to my clients is the same way I'm gonna explain it on here, is that genetics is the room. Epigenetics is us and our teenagers wanting to change our room every like week. That's epigenetics. Is that through adaptation based on where you live, based on trauma, based on and when I say where you live, don't people think like, oh, okay, well, if I live in Peru where there's less oxygen, then my body is going to adapt. Yes. Also, though, this means toxins. This means, do you live in a food desert? Because this stuff matters, right? Food scarcity is a very, very real thing. And
Mhm.
GLP-1 is that negative feedback loop that gets adapted because you just went through a famine and now you're going through a feast. And so what the body will do is say, okay, I need to hold on to these nutrients, which is also why people are talking about GLP-1 and make sure you're still eating well, make sure you're still lifting, because it's an adaptation that we learned through other processes, through other things, because again, that's what our body decides to prioritize. Our body will always prioritize the thing that is the path of least resistance. And so we got to find out, why is that the thing that our body decided to do? And
Mhm.
so coming back to this teenager that like, did you ever do that? Did you ever like change your room like often? No.
No.
No. Yeah, I didn't either because my mom and dad will be my ass. Be my
So I so
butt.
here's a prime example potentially too. My mom always changed our living room around. Like our living room
Mm,
was maybe the same for about 6 months at a time.
okay.
And I have this itch all the time to change my living room around, and I can't do it. I like the way our
Mm,
living room is set up, it doesn't allow me to change the living room, but I
yeah.
want to. I don't like the things in the
Yeah.
space that they're in all the time. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It makes me,
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah. Do you think that that's like something that you like subconsciously learn from your mom?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's like how eating habits get passed
Right,
down.
right. Exactly that.
That's
Exactly
how
that.
thinking, a process of thinking gets passed down. So, like, again, we're talking pros and cons, right? we're not talking, I don't want to scare anybody. I think there is a time for GLP-1, but you better have a really good plan on how to get off of them. So coming back to this epigenetics, I want you to think of epigenetics as how we're changing the room, right? The thing about that, though, coming back to like environment, trauma, food relationships, stress management, sleep, all that, these are just foundations of health. They are nothing fancy, right? And so, based on that, that's how the room changes, right? So, let's use this example of the living room, right? Your mom was like, okay, every 6 months we got to change. Um,
She also has children right now. We are
yes,
pausing.
yes, I have
This
I
is real
have
for them.
children, and they're kind of little. They're 5 and 7. Um, so let's use this example of your mom changing the living room every 6 months, right? Based on maybe income, based on maybe even where she was in her cycle, based on maybe the time of year. All these things change, right? Think about us when it's Christmas, right? A lot of us, most of us, put our Christmas tree in the living room, right? We're gonna adapt our living room based on where the Christmas tree goes, not where our favorite chair goes. You see the path of least resistance, right? You see the priority, you see the right. And so that is a wonderful example. Like I said, this is what I tell my clients. So y'all are hearing basically a conversation that I have with my one-on-one clients. And so that is epigenetics. Now, let's give now an example of epigenetics. Let's do obesity as one of them. Okay. Someone a long time ago, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, been doing this for 5. And all I know that it wasn't the first year, so it may have been the second or the third year. But I had someone follow me on Instagram from a reel that I was talking about that obesity is a chronic illness. And she followed me and she's like, I want to hear how you think about this. And I said, sure. And we had a beautiful, lovely conversation. She's done a few of my classes. She's in my free training library. Like she loves what I do. I think she's just someone that like her husband had passed away like around that time too, right? So there's like a lot of moving pieces in her life, right? And so the conversation really was, again, this was like a long time ago, and no one has really asked me about that. But I think we do need to look at obesity as a chronic illness because it is a epigenetic trajectory, if you will, right? Where if you look at and this is where we can get into like US versus Europe. A lot of people are like, Europe is the magic wand. And I'm like, yeah, come here and see. Come here and see. Live here. Don't come here on vacation. Live here. I get it. During vacation, we walk and our stress management is like so much greater because we're outside and we have sunlight and things like that. I do know that yes, there is higher quality foods, but because the local people push for higher quality food, because the restaurants here, like I said, like it's normal here to like go in like a random village, whatever village you want. You could be like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and just be like, I'm gonna go to that village. And then you like drive to that village and you could be like, hey, does anybody here have honey? There'll be like 5 people. They're like, I got jars of honey. And their bees are literally their beehives are literally in their backyard. Does anybody have like cheese? Yeah, what do you want, goat cheese? Do you want sheep cheese? Do you want cow cheese? Which one? I just made them, right? And they'll give you like this whole bag. It's normal. From here to the city in Sibiu, so I live in about like 35 minutes away from Sibiu, which is in the center of Romania. And it is in Transylvania, by the way. Transylvania is a real place. But uh from our village to the city, there's about 3 trucks that sell either jam, honey, or cheese. And they're all local people on the side of the street. Okay. This is Romania. This is very Balkan culture. Okay. I lived in Spain, in Madrid. Okay. Loved it. There is fresh fruits and veggies at every single corner. Madrid is like New York. All right. But I think like even more hyper, I think. Because I've been to New York a few times. But there's a lot of walking. There is public transport. There is these things. And so when I think of I've seen both worlds, right? And now that I live in Romania as well, which is so Eastern Europe that people forget that this is still Europe, right? And I see this and I'm like, then tell me the answer why people still have chronic illnesses. Tell me why people here are still obese. Because they are. There's a lot of people here that I can say that are obese, including children. In March, the basically the Romanian Academy of Nutritionists, basically, it's a government funded program. They do like every 2 to 3 months they do like a class for like nutritionists that want to join, right, from all over Romania, from Eastern Europe, right? Some of the things are like in English, right? So then it's like a unified, presentation. But in March they did a presentation on kids being obese because it is the highest that they've seen, and we're in 2026. Okay. So the reason why obesity is a chronic illness, and this is not to body shame, this is not to do anything, but because there is significant that feedback loop is not okay. This is what happens between inflammation and systemic inflammation. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not doing a
Okay.
lot of talking. I'm just like soaking it all in. I'm like, okay, girl, keep going.
So
Keep going.
so the best way that I can, because I've had like multiple ways to try to explain this, but I feel like I'm getting it down. The best way that I can explain it is inflammation is actually really good to have. Inflammation is very defensive, right? Think of like if this was like a football game, like American football, not soccer. If we were to do that, that's your defense line. Okay. And they do a good job. You want that. Inflammation is like, for example, right now, wherever you are, let's say you're listening to this in the car, you have inflammation as we speak, defending toxins, defending impurifications in the air, right? If you if you have what are those things in the car, the air fresheners or whatever, right?
Hmm.
That's the immune system and the inflammation system saying, hey, this is actually we need a lot of work here, right? And so that's also I like to make people understand too that toxicity is what is the difference between making the body work hard to the point that it can't handle that level. So that's like toxicity, right? So, and then there's like just a bunch of things that change. Another example that I have of inflammation is if you live in Michigan, I experienced this in my own body. So I lived in Michigan for 31 years total, right? So in between that, like I moved when I was little and then I moved to Spain and then we moved back and now we live in Romania. It's like 31 years in total, right? And I have never lived in Romania. Even though I was born here, but I lived for 3 years. But those first 3 years of my life were like super, super traumatic. So it's like I live here, but not like live. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when I moved here, we moved in the summer, okay? And we live extremely close to the mountains, like 30 minutes, and we're there, right? And I was getting migraines. And I was like, oh, this is so weird. Like, I haven't had migraines in a while. I haven't really changed anything of my diet. I was like, I adjusted my sleep pretty good. Like, that's really weird. And then I finally, because this is what I want everybody to do, and this is why there's pros and cons to GLP-1, is because you got to be able to like zoom out and just look at the pattern that your body is having. So I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Like what are we doing? You know, are we getting sunlight? Are we sleeping at the same time? Day in and day out? Are we just like one day I'll sleep at 8 and then the next day I'll stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning? That's what I was
Yeah.
doing, by the way. Like all this stuff, right? I was like, okay, I gotta like get down on a routine, you know, in a routine that fits my life. And that was actually really hard, Sarah. It was hard because I was like, I'm so excited. At 8 o'clock, like we're outside, we're playing with the kids. All the kids would be in front of the house, and I'm the mom that's like, I'll stay with you guys, you know, because again,
Hmm.
I have one of the smallest children in the like in the era, if you will, right? The kids that do play outside, right? So I was like, no, I'll stay outside, you know, whatever, right? And then sometimes it's just like hard to come down from this excitement. It's like, man, like you just realize the dream. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, let's go do this. Let's go,
Yep.
you know, like a chicken with her
Yep.
head cut off, you know. But that's inflammation, and that's not systemic inflammation because I was able to bring it down without any like significant like major changes and nothing else was really affected, right? So like my period was still on time. I didn't gain like crazy amount of weight. In fact, I lost a significant amount of weight, especially in the first like 3 months moving here. I was like, what's happening? But again, this is where like Europe is not a magic wand. We would walk, run. I'd be in the garden. I'd be like, there was no sitting down.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
was just activity after activity, right? And so that is kind of that feedback loop that was like, okay, I got it down, but now I want to understand why. And I was talking to people here because I'm like, I want to see what other people think. I want to see, you know, they've lived here. They've done that, did that, done, you know, type of
Right.
thing. So I asked a few people, and some of the women said that they get migraines because the pressure actually becomes higher when the heat rises. Mountain pressure, air pressure. I don't know. I'm not a weather forecast girl. Okay, I don't know. I don't
Right.
know. I
Right.
just know there's like specific different clouds. That's all. And the sun is in the star in the sky, and that you know,
And it comes up every day, and then I'm
and it
there.
comes up
Ha.
every day, and then the moon is up every night. You know. That's all I know, right? And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I got curious and I was like, oh, I want to see what the pressure, if I keep track of the pressure, I wonder if that aligns with these migraines that I was having because it was like temple migraines, right? And I was like, okay, this is weird. And so I finally did that. And sure enough, it was very pressure related. So I was like, oh my gosh, because that makes sense. My body is not used to that. Right. And
Right.
so it's trying to adapt. And that was the way that my body was like, by the way, we need support here because,
Right.
and
Right.
so that was that. And so I think that's maybe another, I guess, mindset. I don't know. Maybe you want to say something here about mindset because I didn't take like an Advil Tylenol because Tylenol here is like, paracetamol is like freaking candy here, y'all. It's candy. Every single
Mm.
problem has paracetamol. How do you say it in English? I don't know how to say it.
What are you, I don't know what you're saying.
It's a it's a pill, but it's like equal to acetaminophen, right? And
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so it just it I didn't do that, and all this stuff, not because I'm like, oh, I'm so strong and I'm so cool and I'm so bad and tough and I can handle migraines, all that. No, because I was like, no, I think there's something here that my body is going through. What is it? And so once I found out that's inflammation versus systemic inflammation is notice in the migraine thing, I was like, yeah, my period was still on time. My hunger and my fullness cue. This is a very important
Yeah.
part of the
You're,
GLP-1.
well, you're looking at multiple biofeedback loops is
Yes.
what you're doing. We're talking about all these loops. I always think of it like a closed system. You're looking at
Mm-hmm.
like you're looking at this as like, okay, this loop is good. This loop is still functioning appropriately, optimally, whatever, however you want to say it, right? This loop, this loop, this loop, they're all still moving forward. Like, okay, it's just this one
Yeah.
that's like it's like shorting out a little bit, right? But I think part of the problem is that before I started my health journey, so I'm going to take you back to probably you can relate to before you started your own, like, why is this happening? I don't think enough people want to know why. I don't think enough people care. They
Yeah.
just want this thing to stop. I
Yes.
just want the migraines to end. I just want this to shut off. I just have to lose this weight now. I
We're
just need my period to
reactive.
be.
We're just
Yes.
reacting. We're not like
Yes.
understanding. We're not like, okay, so the sky is blue. Ta-da. Like, no,
Right.
no, 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 no. There's a reason. There's a reason why it's
Right.
blue. And sometimes when the sun and the moon hit just right, it becomes purple. Like, what?
Right.
You know?
Right. And I think that that's the bigger piece is that because most of us, I would say us, like I would call, I mean, I was technically, if you want to classify obesity as a chronic illness, then I had chronic illness for sure there, right? Um, and so for me, there was so much of my life because I thought I had to do things a certain way because the health and wellness, here we go back to that,
Yep.
what told me I had to do it this way. Then we
Yes.
talk about, and then you tie in that GLP-1 to feast and famine. Hello, restrict binge, restrict binge,
Yes.
restrict binge, restrict binge. My entire effing life, I would eat nothing, and then I would eat everything, and then I would eat
Bingo.
nothing, and then I would eat everything. And I think
Bingo.
that's like, yeah, and it's like understanding like that is not the answer here. Eating less, and I literally said that to somebody the other day who's like, yeah, my doctor told me I'm insulin resistant. I'm like, oh, okay. I
Mm.
was like, well, we need to figure out how to support your body. She's like, I don't know how to
Mm.
do that. That right? Like we are not
Yep.
taught. I was not taught how to support my body properly. Like everybody complaining about perimenopause and menopause. Cool, honey, child, I love you. But like, what have you done for the last 30 years of your life? Have you
Yeah.
supported your body appropriately? Have you fed it well? Have you moved it well? Have you treated it well? Have you talked to it well? Or you stand in the mirror, look at yourself
Yeah.
and tell yourself, I'm just fat. I'm never going to change. This is just who I am. My mom and dad had XYZ, so this I'm just meant to be this way. Sorry, that's my rant.
No, it's very true. And like you can keep going
You're
because
like,
that
keep
is
going, girl.
keep
Yeah,
going because and again, I don't want this to like to have people feel bad or like unmotivated or like blah blah ha whatever, right? Like like I don't want that. I don't want to ever leave like a sour taste in anybody's mouth, right? And I'm not a fan of tough love. I'm not a fan of things like that. I think we need to understand that the way that the body works is that it always is adapting, and it's adapting based on what you give it.
yeah,
That's it.
or don't give it.
Or don't, yeah, or don't give it. Yeah.
You know,
And
you
so
know.
that's yeah.
I was just gonna say, I follow somebody. She's a doctor. She's a little bit younger than me. I would probably say in her 30s. I don't exactly know, but anyway,
hmm
she did her entire like doctorate on like women's metabolism. And now she's doing
Nice.
a lot of research just specifically on what women's metabolism do in perimenopause and menopause, right?
Yep.
So it's like what's interesting, this is so interesting to me because women are like, you had already mentioned this, right? Where there's what has been done has not been done on women. And then what we're giving women to treat women has not been done on women. It's not been tested on women. It's not proven. There's no data, right? So that's what she's doing. She is trying to
Yeah.
gather data for women, for understanding, and then she gets data and she puts the data out there. And then wouldn't you know it, women are going, well, that's not true. That's not true.
Uh-huh.
You can't say that's
Uh-huh.
true because I know what you can't tell me what my body, blah, 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 blah. Like you don't inherently gain weight during perimenopause. Well, that's not true. I did. Okay, well, that's okay. It's your experience. You can have that experience. But what else changed besides just perimenopause? Right? So she's getting like fired up because she's like, you say that there's not enough data on women. So then I do data on women and I present you with that data and you're like, no, you're wrong. How am I wrong? It's like, and so I think there's this element too where like we claim that we want this thing and then we get this thing and we're like, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't align with what I already know, what I think, and what I believe. And I'm not willing to change what I know, think, or believe. And that is where we have a problem.
Yeah, that is where that is the thought process that gets inherited because again, I talk about this in this way because I see it with from my biological parents to my adoptive parents, blood and not blood, right? And then I think about my kids and there's a big gap in between my biological parents. They were addicts of all sorts, and then my biological siblings did not end up like that, but they did, and like two of them didn't learn from a lot of the mistakes that my biological mother did. But then the four of us are so the opposite, right? And again, that maybe has to do with maybe genetics and epigenetics, right? That's like what you give the body and what you don't give the body. And like, again, there's such a big difference, right? If you were to just see all of us seven siblings, you could tell the four that are not like the rest of the family. You could tell.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
just everything about us. We are much more positive. We are much more like, hey, let's find the solution rather than more problems, right? Like things like that, right? Where then you get into like my adoptive parents and they have their own like trauma and like their own style of parenting that just it didn't work for me, right? And there was a gap in between us, and then from learning about my biological family, learning the things that I learned living with my adoptive parents, I was like, here's the things that I want to change. And being that cycle breaker is not easy. And I know so many of us hear this, but it is something that needs to be done. And I will tell you, and I tell everybody here, like in the village, right? It's very village mentality here. People are very simple minded, very like, I lived today. I hope I get to live tomorrow, right? People here live like that because they know if they put seedlings of their tomatoes, their cucumbers, their radishes, their things, right? If they take care of their chickens, then tomorrow they'll be set, right? Where like the Western world is like the seed that I'm planting is um better food relationship, right? Like it's such a different shift, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So again, there's that perspective that I live in between, and this is why generational changes, and this is why I believe so much that yes, we do hold genetic information that does maybe as an example of like weight, right? Some people just really do put on weight more in the midsection. Maybe they don't have insulin resistance. And it's like, oh, insulin resistance. Oh, that means that when you have visceral fat and around your belly, that means you have insulin resistance. And look, there are people that like don't have that. But again, it's like there is such hopeful research. There are people out there that are like, by the way, GLP-1 is really natural, but also did you know? So I want to get into this because I think it's really important speaking of like genetics and epigenetics. So the thing about this whole blood sugar thing, okay? Like I want to talk about that. So this gut bacteria that helps, right? Because it's definitely a gut brain connection and the emotional flatlineness, right? Weren't we talking about that like what was who was saying it? We're like,
Me. I was asking you because I had seen
yeah,
it somewhere where they were started, and I've seen it now multiple places, not just one
okay.
place,
Mm-hmm.
where I have seen it where it's like people are starting to get concerned that those that are taking a GLP-1 are starting to essentially not care really
Yeah.
about being in a relationship, not falling in
Yeah,
love,
not falling
not
in love.
having
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
meaningful relationships because everything is just so it's dimming down everything, not just your hunger cues. And I think that that's what people are, again, we're going to talk about, like we continuously say, it's like everything is connected. It's a closed loop. So you put something in your body, it's going to affect not just that thing. It doesn't just target that GLP-1 in your gut. It's doing things to other places in your body.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, okay, so the emotional flatliness, there's actually multiple meta-analysis just to kind of give everybody an idea. The best kind of nutrition science research is meta-analysis because that's multiple researches put together, and then it's like, hey, here's like the foundational piece of what is true and like what's not, right? And so, based off that, right, what we know as a practitioner, as someone that is always going down rabbit holes. Sometimes because my clients, sometimes because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saw that. And that's really an interesting point. Let me see if that person is actually talking facts. And then I'll like go down rabbit holes and I'll be like, okay, so that person be lying. Right. So I'm like, okay, cool. Right. Or like they're twisting the facts or whatever. Right. So that's like kind of like old news. That's like whatever. Right. We need to be science literate. I cannot stress that enough. We need to be science literate. If it means and again, like maybe in the future, maybe I will do a class of like science literacy. Maybe I'll do a class of like, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
because I was just gonna say because we recently had a conversation a couple days ago briefly, and we were talking about bile in your gut and
Yes,
in your liver and all the thing your not your pancreas your spleen and all
spleen.
these things,
Yep.
right? And so it was interesting because literally the day after, this one girl, she's like, I'm super constipated. I eat all this protein and blah blah blah. And somebody's like, you really need to eat fat because it lubes up the gut. And I was like, no.
No.
That's the why are you telling somebody to do this? Well, I went carnivore and it really made me loosey goosey. And that's the science literacy that we're dealing with. And that's why I want to take a
Yes.
spoon and cut up my eyeball because I'm like, if you are not educated, shut up.
Up.
Or at least say, I'm not
Yeah.
educated, but this is what I did. Or something.
Verbatim.
Have an
Verbatim. That's me with
asterisk.
GLP-1. People are
Yeah,
asking
have
me,
an
I'm like,
asterisk.
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. When I will know, you will know. Like,
Right.
I don't know yet. There isn't and I still think there isn't enough, but at least now it sounds so terrible, but it's like there's enough people using it that are willing to do the research. And it's like, all right, at least we got that. You know what I mean? So what I'm talking about is not even research. I'm just talking facts, biology. That's all I'm
Yeah.
talking about, right? Like at
Right.
this point, right? Okay, so the GLP-1, we know that it's like the gut and the brain, and we understand that it basically levels out these bacteria that then pushes these hormone functions that say, hey, you're hungry, hey, you're full, hey, you're excited, okay? Serotonin, dopamine, they all play within that scope, if you will, okay? Serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, okay? GABA is the one that is kind of like the chief neurotransmitters that then tell all these other ones what to do. And what I'm talking about, serotonin, dopamine, these are all 80 to 90% developed in the gut microbe. Okay.
Hmm.
From not just the GLP-1 negative feedback loop. There again, there are other enzymes that have a lot to do with it, but then even underneath that, there's a lot of minerals, and then there's absorption, and so that's how we get into kind of like the core markers of like microbiome health, right? Is that we see the increase of population of certain bacteria, Akkermansia, and there's another one now I cannot remember, but Akkermansia, which is a species of bacteria that actually help strengthen that mucus layer in our gut that is associated with metabolic health, right? So think about not just like overweight, but think of like thyroid, think of insulin, think of all these things, aka systemic inflammation. Okay. And so then because of that, that's going to reduce what people are calling leaky gut, which a lot of people are using that as a diagnosis. It's not. It's equivalent to saying I have a migraine. Like when we talk about symptoms, right? Like it's
Mhm.
that common is what I mean to say, right? It's that common as a symptom. It is not a diagnosis. When I had a hard time, and I think we talked about this in 2025. I had a hard time admitting that I knew gut health and talking about gut health in 2025 because in 2025, gut health wellness, it went such sideways that I was like, I don't even know what to talk about because this is not gut health with what all these other people are talking about. So I myself got caught up in this like social media wind up. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
And so 2025 was what it was. It came with so much stress, it came with so much learning, it came with so many dreams that came true. It was awesome. Awesome, great, whatever. And so that's kind of like part one of like GLP-1, right? To understand the mechanism behind it, right? And so because our gut cave, our abdomen is a mucus layer, same with our lungs. Right. And so a lot of people, when they think mucus, they think of like the sinuses, that this is a mucus cave, right? But our lungs are a mucus cave and our gut is a mucus cave. So now we have that information, right? And so what that does, it's going to lower that systemic inflammation. So people like, for example, I'm taking this for insulin resistance, let's say, right? For type 2 diabetes, right? And then people are like, hey, this is really cool. I actually also don't have that many sinus infections. Or like, hey, like I feel really good. I don't have that much bloating. Right. Because now we just have also reduced that systemic inflammation that is with the mucus cave. Right. Okay. So that part indirectly is actually also going to reduce the blood sugar swings that cause more systemic inflammation, that then that gut environment becomes less hostile to those beneficial microbes. I hope this makes sense, right? But there may also be a direct receptor mediated effect on the microbe colonization patterns. What I mean by that is this is where a pro can become a con. Okay. So now we get into like things like what's called migrating motor complex. Man, I had a brain fart first. I know it as MMC, not the whole name. So the migrating motor complex is actually very, very important in understanding how GLP-1 receptors are actually found within the enteric nervous system. Enteric nervous system is the gut-brain connection. Y'all following?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Can I ask one really quick clarifying question though,
Yeah.
before we move forward? Okay. So what we're saying is that when people start GLP-1, it's not it's not necessarily the GLP-1 itself that's actually changing the other chronic potential inflammation. Is that what you're kind of saying? Is like when it goes in there because it's changing the mucus and because it's changing, that
Yes.
is then transforming into other things. So is that still not a
Yeah.
pro?
Yeah, it's a pro. It's
Or
a pro
okay.
that
Okay.
now through homeostasis we need to watch, and this is why like eating that and nutrient dense foods, lifting, things like that, this is where this gets into play, right? And we were talking about like not feeling love. We were talking about, so we're kind of like getting into that and how this is
Okay.
all
Okay.
connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I just
And
wanted to
so
clarify. I'm like, it seems
mhm.
like that. So when people say, "Oh, my inflammation's going down," or my other markers improved, my A1C dropped,
Yep.
my cholesterol went down, there's
Yeah.
a reason actually why, and it's not necessarily the GLP-1, but it's what it's doing to your gut
Yes,
itself.
like indirectly because of this systemic, it's a loop, exactly how you said, this
Okay.
closed loop. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I just want
Yep.
to clarify.
So the GLP-1 receptors that are found within the enteric nervous system, which is the system between the gut and the brain, how the gut and the brain talk to each other, right? Enteric nervous system, this was my this was my schooling. This
Okay.
is what I do know. Like from womb to death, I know all the things that happen, right? All the like microbe changes, all the developmental changes, not necessarily psychological, but like developmental neurological changes, right? All that stuff, and how, for example, like some people, when they feel anxiety, they have diarrhea, and some people, when they feel anxiety, they have constipation. That is a genetic and epigenetic response, for example. So see now how like we got
Hmm.
into that. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. So, knowing what we know about those GLP-1 receptors within the gut and the brain, this is including something that's called the myenteric plexus, which is this network of nerves that is embedded within that gut wall, right? That then controls peristalsis, okay? Peristalsis, I'm going to explain in a second, but when these GLP-1 receptors are overstimulated by doses of GLP-1, y'all follow one? Okay.
Hmm.
They actually inhibit something of the smooth muscle contractions that actually move food forward from the time that, like, from the minute that you're swallowing to all the time that it exits your body. So
So
that's
that's why
kind
they
of like
say the digestive process takes longer because now it's slowing that process down, right?
it's slowing it down. Yes.
Okay.
And so that's where people are like, I feel full longer. That's all that's happening. The reason I'm talking about, so like we talked about this gut microbe connection here, right? And now we're talking about how it affects it is because it's playing with that enteric nervous system. Does this make sense?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And so because of that, right, that is the suppression of the MMC, which is the migrating motor complex. The migrating motor complex is something that is such a beautiful thing that this is not an adaptation. This is something that we've had for ever and ever and ever and ever since God created man, which is massive to think about. GLP-1, adaptation. MMC, not an adaptation. And what MMC is basically this like housekeeping, okay? The cleanup crew, if you will, okay? And what it does, it sweeps through between your meals, between breakfast and lunch, right? It sweeps up and it clears all this debris. It clears out the bacteria. It clears out undigested material. And so when that MMC is actually suppressed, what happens?
It
If we
doesn't do
don't clear out, if we don't clear
that.
out the gut every every 3 to 4 hours, if we don't leave enough time in between that, and then we go because we're suppressed and we go way longer, right? That is when we get things like SIBO, things like PCOS. Now we just went from like, I want to lose weight, I want to help my systemic inflammation. Oh my gosh, my A1C went down, but now I have this other problem.
Yeah. Because you can't, because there's, I don't know. I feel like what I'm going to say is mean, so I'm going to hold back a little bit.
No, say what you want to say. I mean, like,
Because I
make
feel
it
like,
helpful, make it helpful, but like, say what you want to say.
because I feel like, again, I'm going to go back to like, I feel like it should feel so empowering that we are actually in control. And I
Yes.
feel like we have just completely given it all away and allowed these things and life and our desires. I just want to lose weight. I have to lose it now. My doctor said I have to lose it. He's dropping me on this, people. Everybody's on a GLP-1, all these GLP-1. And it's like, and now we feel this pressure. Now we feel all oh, it'll work. I know it's going to work. Okay. It's like, the reality is it's like, okay, it might help for something, it might help you short term, but like now we're creating other problems. So this is kind of like, again, that band-aid fix. It's like, cool, but what are we doing on the back end? Hey, but what are we
Right.
doing to support the body?
Right. And again, this is long-term use of GLP-1. That's my main thing that I want people to understand that I have a client. I have a client who she's on GLP-1 and she just a little quick background about her story. So she could not get a diagnosis to save her life. And I was trying to have her understand that sometimes a diagnosis is kind of one of those like mafia stamps where like you're stamped on like your arm and then you'll always be identified with that
Yep.
mafia for the rest of your life. So I was like, sometimes it does play in our favor. So I in my story of 50% liver function, that's the only thing that really came out of all of my like labs and tests. And I was like 50K in debt, like to
And the kids take over again.
oh my gosh, I thought she was gonna fall on her head. All right. She was like, oh, I'm like, what's happening? Okay, she's fine, guys. She's fine. She was just playing around.
Everything is
Um,
good. No more monkeys are jumping on the bed.
Yeah, exactly. She's my little gymnast. With 50% liver function, it was scary to hear that 18 years old, but it was like for me, and again, this is like where maybe it's my epigenetics, maybe it's from the things that I've been learning about myself, about my genetics and epigenetics that I hold. Maybe it's like, hey, you could possibly be an alcoholic because your entire generation, like your all the generations before you were, you know, you could have like bipolar and like all these other neurological disorders because like all the women in your family did. And it's like, what? Right. So it's like learning these things about you is like, okay, cool. Right. And so when I got that diagnosis and then they were like, by the way, here's some pills and supplements. When I tell you that I remember the exact face, because I'm working on it. But at the same time, like, do I
Doesn't
really?
lie. It's
It
like you
doesn't
need to tell your
lie.
face to be quiet. Calm down. Take a breath, face. You're good. I'm the same way.
Yeah. It like
Mm.
you whatever I don't say on my mouth, my face
It's
tells,
coming.
right?
It's coming
And so I
anyway. Yeah.
remember the face and I was like, I'm not dumb. Like pills and supplements absorb and digest through the liver. Very good, right? Like right? Like I was like, what the heck, right? And so I'm mentioning this because it's this is the that exact moment where I call it my Eminem moment, where you know Eminem goes to like he goes to
Oh, you're talking about the candy. Can you see where my head's at? Like M&Ms. I like
the
like oh
rapper.
no, he. Oh, okay.
The rapper, the Detroit rapper. Yeah, where he like goes to like freestyle and then he like kind of like he chokes, you
Jokes.
know?
Yeah.
But like he knows that he has the information. He knows that he can like say what he needs to say, right? So like that was me. And then I finally was just like, no, like I'm not gonna do any of that. And I'm not, this is why not having a diagnosis sometimes plays in your favor because not having an official diagnosis helped me to kind of have a more open mind and not look specifically for like for example I've had hypoglycemia my entire life and that is a really big pituitary gland adrenal dysfunction that's like think of like temperature regulation insulin regulation like all that stuff right and so like my mind is like you know what whatever is, you know, happening with you, your body's adapting. And I think that's another thing is like maybe that's like a whole nother thing within itself, but like I never was like something's wrong with me. It was more of like there's something happening and I need to figure out what it
What?
is. Yeah.
And again, I think that's a question that people don't want. Oh, I'm gonna get liver dysfunction. I have 50% liver dysfunction. Oh, okay. Oh, you want me to take these pills and supplements? You must be right. You're the doctor, and it's nothing to bag against doctors, but it's like you must be right. You're the doctor. Give me the pills. Okay,
Correct.
I'll just do this, whatever you say. I'm like,
Correct.
okay, but that's not always the answer. And why?
Yeah.
Why do I have liver dysfunction? What brought me
Yeah.
here, and how do I help? Again, support my body.
Body. And so coming back to my client, like she was having a hard time getting a diagnosis. And I was trying to tell her, hey, like maybe you don't need a diagnosis and stuff like that. She saw massive results. Like I'm saying, from just from the fact that she doesn't have a diagnosis to the fact that like she's sleeping all night. She's not having rashes all over her body. She was going from like 5 to 10 pound gain weight overnight, which is a huge symptom
A
that
little
there's
big.
something happening with your liver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So like that big weight fluctuation, right? Just not just gaining, but also losing really fast is not okay either. Right. And so she reminded me a lot of me. You know what I mean? And so I was
Hmm.
like, here's some stuff. And we researched together. And that's the thing is like when we work together, it's a teamwork, right? So she did her little rabbit hole searches and I did mine. And we kind of came to this understanding like maybe you should go to the Mayo Clinic, you know, and she went to several Mayo clinics in her area. And I was like, I think you should get tested for EDS. And I think from EDS, I think you'll get what I originally think that's happening to you is MCAS. And MCAS is a systemic inflammation. That's really what it is, right? And we ended up working together for a year. And after a year, I was like, what do you want to do? You know, I was like, you can do other things, you know, you can like get more testing if you want. You can see where your biomarkers are. We can do another HTMA, right? Like That's with people that have been with me for over a year, the services are so flexible, it's so chill, and I'm obsessed with it. It's a lot of empowerment. It's like, yes, I want to do
Hmm.
the HTMA, or like I want to do
Yep.
biomarkers, or like, right. So it's super cool to see that. But she decided to work with another functional doctor. And it's funny because this functional doctor actually got really big on social media in the past like year. And I was like, this is so weird. And so recently we were talking about it, and she's like, I'm on GLP-1 and it's really helped with my SIBO. And so this is where my mind comes back is like, it's going to help with your SIBO because with EDS, with MCAS, it's, excuse me, it's this biofeedback loop, and think about it as a loop, right? Think about it as like a race cars, right? It's like where you are in the loop, and you really have to understand and know your body. And she, I quote, said, I understand when to take my GLP-1 and when to not take my GLP-1 because of you. And she does want to come off, and I think she was only on it for 6 months, I believe. And she's like, it's been helping so much. And I think that's where that empowerment is like, you
Hmm.
got to understand the mechanism. And again, we're not talking crazy stuff, right? I
No.
hope that you're listening to this episode and it's like, okay, I kind of understand what GLP, what like, I'm a scientist now. My
Right,
body, like,
exactly. I get all of those letters at the end of my name now. Thank you, Jetta.
yes, yes, like that's the goal, honestly. That's the
Yeah.
goal, is to understand how things work. Okay. And
Or
so,
or even to be able to empower yourself to ask how things work. So doctor says, I want to put you on a GLP-1. Great, long term, what does that look like? And why? Oh, you can be on that forever. You should be on it for the rest of your life. Well, probably I shouldn't. Like there's that's a whole different conversation. But like, I mean, anyway, go ahead.
yes, yes. Okay, so coming back to this MMC, right? Okay. This motor complex, okay? It's every 3 to 4 hours. These little cleanup crew comes in and says, okay, we need to clean up. Okay. It's kind of like after you eat, you like clean off the table type of
Right, like
situation.
I'm thinking of a lunchroom, literally envisioning like a
Yeah.
lunchroom, and then all the kids leave, and then they come around and they wipe down all the tables and clean all the trash cans and get ready for the next group of kids.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so now I want to take that idea, right, and understand homeostasis with GLP-1. Okay. So with the MMC, this is just one example because if we talk about like all the things that GLP-1 affects, we'd be here for honestly
Days,
days.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just one that then to just for time's sake to understand why people can feel flatlined and why this is actually very damaging. And to me, without getting emotional, I think that is the most important thing about being a human living on this earth in the era that we live in. If you're emotionally flatlined and it is hard for you to have connection, I'm going to pray for you because the era that the world is in with so much stuff, so much intense stuff. We're no longer talking about like, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like there's a virus and then there's another virus and then like there's this war, and then there's another war, and then there's another war, and then there's this, and then there's that, and and by the way, like gas is like $5 a gallon, and like
Yep. Yep.
that's a lot, right? That's a lot. And
It's
if you're
constant.
emotionally, yeah, if you're emotionally flatlined, there's already so much psychological warfare, but if you've been noticing that if you are on GLP-1, you've been on it for a little while, um, and okay, quick little like asterisk here. If you've been on GLP-1 for a short time and you already feel more flatlined with your emotions,
Red flag.
please, please do one of those. Cut it.
Gut it out.
Cut it out slowly.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Because I think that's the other thing is people just bounce right off these things. It's like you can't do that either. Like you have to
You
slowly come off that.
you can't do that, not even to like supplements. You can't do that with like
Okay.
vitamin C, vitamin D. You can't do that. I mean, you could do whatever you want, actually. You know
People
what? You
do
can do
it.
whatever you want.
People do it. People do it. Let's say that. You can
Yeah.
do what you want to do. It's not ideal. It is not the right way
Yes.
to do it.
Yes. Yes. I'm like, you
And
can't
we,
do it.
yeah, and everybody knows on my podcast, I always say, I'm sorry, but there is a right way. There
Yeah,
is. It doesn't mean everybody's like, there's a right way for everybody, right? It doesn't
yeah.
mean that everybody has to do everything the same exact way, but there is a right way to do something.
Yes, 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 yes. It's like building a house. What are you building the roof for if
Thank you.
like you don't have
Literally.
what's happening here? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
putting the windows in. They're just floating though. Oh, okay. There's no walls. Great. All right.
Right. Oh
But
my gosh. Literally, literally. Okay, so we're about to start building our house and we have 9 windows and everybody's like, "Oh my God, you have 9 windows? Oh my God, that's so awesome." I'm like, "That's all
there's
we
no hole.
have."
There's no hole yet for the
There's-
foundation piece. Like, woo.
Yes,
But we
yes.
got
Oh yeah.
windows.
Okay, so homeostasis, and MMC, right? Every 3 to 4 hours, this cleanup crew from the lunchroom comes and says, "Hey, we're gonna clean everything up." So the reason why we can feel flatlined and where this kind of goes into play is a beautiful bundle of nerves called the vagus nerve. You've heard of it?
I've heard of it
Yeah.
many times.
Okay, what do you know about it before I'm like, oh my God,
Okay.
this is the vagus nerve.
So without all of my letters at the end of my name, I know like the vagus nerve is like the main nerve that basically everything runs through, and you can stimulate this nerve. Um, there's so much more I know about this nerve, but like essentially like runs your whole like emotional like system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like our menstrual cycle, circadian cycle, I mentioned a little bit at like the beginning of this episode, I was talking about everything is a cycle, even how we blink is a cycle, right? Like all that stuff. So like that kind of stuff, that's how the vagus nerve functions as well, right? It functions to adapt and in its own cycle, right? And so because this is very that is the bundle of nerves that connect the gut and the brain. Like if the vagus nerve is like the walkie-talkie in between the gut and the brain.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Where is it located? Where is it located? It runs like it's
Um, it's above your belly button, center of your abdomen, um, above your belly button, not all the way up to like your bra line, a little bit lower. There's the vagus nerve.
oh, that's the
Yeah.
vagus nerve?
Yeah.
So like when you go down a hill really fast, like a roller
Yeah.
coaster, that's the vagus nerve?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, my vagus nerve gets a workout when we go to the Cedar Point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 But again, sometimes that's actually really good because it
Yeah.
stimulates the
I
vagus
was gonna
nerve.
say it can be stimulated. It's like
It can be
you're screaming.
stimulated.
Yeah. It's like a
Yeah.
release, emotional release.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, anyway,
Okay,
sorry.
so because this is very enteric nervous system about what we're talking about, feeling flatlined. Again, um, obesity is a chronic illness because it is a systemic inflammation on a hunger and fullness loop that should be regulated, and it is not because of genetics, because of epigenetics, because of environmental factors, because of nutrient density, because of sleep, because of stress management, because of digestion, you name it. But there is a systemic inflammation now because now this affects all these other systems.
We do interrupt this program to let everybody know that we are not sponsored. So the only way that we get out into the world and into the Ethernet is if you share our podcasts. So please go give us a like, a follow on our podcast. You can find Jetta at jettas.digest. That is her Instagram. I am Sarah K. CP Fit on Instagram as well. We are thoroughly enjoying this conversation and go.
You're amazing. Thank you. A neighbor came to hang out with me. Again, see, village mentality is so chill.
It ain't
Um,
here. I don't even see our neighbors, so I don't even know that. I was like, there's a woman that lives next door to us. They've lived there for 4 years.
yeah, girl. I love my neighbors. Did you see the reel from the other day about my neighbor? He like swung open
Yeah,
his gate and
swung
he was
open the
like,
door. He's like,
yeah, I'm like, Bro, what are you doing?"
you
He's
know,
such
he's
a
just gonna tell you your business.
he's such a genuine man though. Like I know what he did. Either A, he didn't know what was happening because he was already like drunk, but he's a kind drunk. You know what I mean?
Mm,
But yeah, that was weird. He's like kidney stones, and I'm like, you should probably do something about
should
that.
probably stop drinking.
Like,
Yeah,
besides drinking
seriously.
your beer.
Drink some
Anyways,
tea.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so vagus nerve. That's what we were talking about. Vagus nerve.
Yes.
Um, okay, so we were talking about the systemic inflammation with obesity, right?
Obesity. Hmm.
Yes. And so once I want to come back to this GLP-1 receptors, right? So the GLP-1 receptor, um, in general, this is not even about the injection itself. This is in general, right? This is actually very much expressed through what's called the vagal afferent terminal. Okay? Afferent, there's afferent and efferent. Okay? Efferent, I think of effect, and afferent is like kind of like effect is like stop and go short term. Afferent is a little bit longer effect. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So
One's
in
shorter,
gen
one's longer.
yes, 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 yes. So when those receptors are activated, this is in general GLP-1 in its function, right? When that's activated, it sends these kind of one-way signals, okay, that then actually slow down the gastric emptying depending on what you eat. Okay, I want to pause here real quick because I think this is really valuable information here. Our GLP-1 is meant to increase, decrease based on what we eat, based on like, are we closer to our menstrual cycle or farther apart from our menstrual cycle? It's going to come in waves. If we are in the winter season or in the summer season. So again, GLP-1 has its own rhythm. Okay.
Cycle. Yep. Hmm.
Yes, it has its own cycle. Okay. Even more so now, it gets even more specific. It's kind of like antibodies, but think of like enzymes. Think of more of like, instead of antibodies are like, hey, okay, I know that. I know that's safe. GLP-1 is more like, okay, hormones, do this thing. Okay, metabolites, do this thing. Okay, minerals, go do this thing, right? And it's very much based on your gut microbe ecosystem. Okay. That has its own other internal rhythm based on what you eat. For example, you ever notice how when you eat carbs, you tend to get hungrier faster after that?
Hmm.
Okay. GLP-1. Yeah. Okay. You ever notice that if you eat protein, maybe without a vegetable, without something high in fiber, that protein meal gets you tired? This is in
Yes.
general.
AKA turkey dinner. I don't know if there's that. That's why everybody falls asleep.
Bingo. Okay.
Does
That
who's
is
eating fiber? Nobody's eating fiber at Thanksgiving. It's just
on
potatoes and
Thanksgiving.
turkey.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And again, we've normalized that. Again, we're like,
For oh well, okay, yes. Yes.
I'm so tired. And it's like, yeah, cool. But
Well,
also
people blame it on some enzyme or something in the turkey itself, that it's like something that makes you, but that's what's happening
that
essentially.
is what's happening. Yeah, that enzyme has very little effect. That's like I'm trying to think of like a food that people say like, "Oh, that makes me do this." But it's like more of a placebo kind, unless you're like
Um,
really sensitive to like things.
I mean, just in general, I hear everybody say carbs make me bloat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so
All
uh
carbs?
yeah, so bloating and hunger are two different biofeedbacks and they're two different negative feedback loops, okay? But let's stick to the one about GLP-1s and about hunger and fullness, right? So if we have a higher carb meal, hey, okay, a high carb meal, we tend to get hungrier faster because that GLP-1 is actually significantly raised in parallel with insulin or the glycemic index in your body. The glycemic index functions in relationship to your GLP-1, right? And so now coming to this vagus nerve situation, that's how this is all connected. Yes? Okay. So if over time we use this in a progressive way, which that's how people use GLP-1, is like, I'm going to start with a small dose and then I'm going to start with a bigger dose. Okay. So I went from talking about GLP-1 and its function to now the injection. Okay. So now we use this in progression and now we already talked about gastroparesis, which is basically the slowing down of the gastric emptying, right? And so where that motility is also impaired, so then that stomach cannot contract effectively to actually push food out of the small intestine, out of the duodenum, right? So that it is a cell called the Cajal cell, Cajal. Okay, okay, that is a helper in making the contraction and the dilation function. When this is halted, when this is like or halted or um hyperactivated, okay, when this is affected, let's talk about that. When it is affected, it is disrupting that rhythm between the gastric contractions, your vagus nerve, and your brain. Okay, because of this is where now we get into like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, because all that system together, like I feel like emotional eating, this is a perfect example. A lot of people emotionally eat because they have low dopamine, right? And then they try to get dopamine from other ways, right? Which again, this is underneath that, this is because food was either treated as love or community or acceptance, right? And so
That's my wheelhouse. That's what I work with people on. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you, with your clients that you see that like emotionally eat, what do you see in the way that their behavior is almost like mirrored when they are in either their binge state or after or before? We can talk about before too, because you may be so low in dopamine that you may not even notice that you're binging until you come out of that.
Yeah. So I think it's very person dependent. And I just want to
Mhm.
make sure I'm understanding your question. You want to know potentially before, during, or after kind of what their emotions are about what
Yes.
they did, or just
About what they
about.
did, about like what they did in like um almost like I want to say kind of like motivation. Like what was the motivation? Was the
Mhm.
motivation, you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. So I would say, myself included, 99% of the time post, I did something I know I shouldn't have done. Even if I caught it afterwards, even though I might have even known going into it, I tried to walk away, but I went back anyways.
Okay,
Shame,
okay.
shame, shame,
Shame. Yeah.
shame,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
guilt and shame. And it also then starts to creep a little bit into almost, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, like almost like bad, like I'm a bad person. So we start to take on that
So
identity. So it's
morality.
not, yeah, 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 yeah. So, and then, outside of those things, then it becomes, this is where I come in, is like trying to build this toolbox. Okay, so we tried to do something before we went in. I mean, that's what I'm gonna call it, before you go in. And then you try to pull yourself out of it and it still didn't work. And then now you're feeling this XYZ on the back end. Sometimes I have clients that are able to pull themselves out. It's like, okay, I'm using this tool. So we built the toolbox for them. Okay,
Okay.
now I have this other tool that they use, like, okay, post or during, I mean, excuse me, during. So like, okay, I started to get into the bag of barbecue potato chips, but I realized, I was like, stop, just stop, put it down, right? Stop. Or I have post toolbox where it's like, um, where I had a client yesterday literally say, I had a terrible night and day, and I told myself to stop. And then after everybody went to bed, I went back and I ate the cereal anyways. So now it's becoming that shame cycle where this particular person has used food for love, for acceptance, for kindness. For me, it was always about, food was always what it said it was. Like an Oreo is always an Oreo. I'm not gonna go eat an Oreo and then it turns into a Reese's peanut butter cup, right?
Oh, okay, okay. I was like, I don't know what you mean by that, but I get it. Okay, yeah.
So
Like listen, if I'm gonna start an Oreo, it's an Oreo. I'm not going to
It
other
never
things.
lies to me. Yeah, it never lied to me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
okay.
always it was what it said it was. Like it never tried to mask itself. It never tried to say it was something that it wasn't. It's like a mega
Yes.
stuffed Oreo is a mega stuffed Oreo. Cool, right? I got you. Same kind of mint ice cream is never strawberry ice cream. It's just what it is. And there was some, so for me personally, so there was definitely an element of like, whether it was it's how I coped. I didn't know any better. I felt like there was probably a part of me personally that was like, I kind of feel like I'm naughty or bad because I would do things like behind my parents' back where they weren't
Mm,
home and so they didn't know what was happening. So there's a
mm,
lot. I mean, there's a lot of that to unpack, but I really try to build toolboxes like before, during, and after, and especially the after part because that's where the shame ridden. I mean, it can be overwhelming, and then it becomes the
yes.
identity. I just nobody loves me. Nobody wants to be around me. This is how I am. I'm never going to be any different than this, and it just becomes who we are.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know if
So
that answers your
what
question.
is like the after effect mentally? What I'm going to use you as the example since you're
Okay.
here. And I think that was really good of like sometimes it really is. I mean, binge eating is a whole psychological effect that I am so blessed that I have never experienced that. Like I'm hungry. I'm hungry, but like it's not the same as binge. And I think a lot of people, I hope when you're listening to this episode, it's like, no, I get so hungry and I want to eat everything from the fridge. That's a little bit different from binge eating.
Yes.
Binge eating is
Yes.
very, very emotional. And I'm blessed with that. And I don't know if it's because of all the necessary evils to keep me alive in my first 3 years, if that's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know I don't know, but I'm asking this because a lot of people want to almost like associate binge eating with obesity or binge eating with like this is why I need to take GLP-1. And I just want to say again, I'm not a specialist in binge eating, but I am a specialist in chronic illness and understanding illnesses and systemic inflammation. And the way that I see this, the way that I see the mindset, the mentality that's been passed down is that there's nothing that you can do about this except biologically shorten that cycle, shorten the binge eating, or in this case, slow down the emptying.
Hmm.
So what I want to know is like, do you see a psychological difference in like knowing what you know now, right? Like you've lost a significant amount of weight and you've done it 100% through food and exercise. Never once did you
Yes.
take a GLP-1, never
Nope.
once you're not taking like weight loss supplements, you're not doing
Nope.
like right like you're not doing your food first, right? Food
Food
first,
first.
habits, foundational health, right? All this
Yep.
stuff. You're getting your kids into it, which like oh, bless the Lord, right? Like I love that. But like I want to know what has changed with the years, the farther that you go. And I'm asking this because I've noticed significant changes again, the gap between my biological family, my adoptive family, and my kids. There is a world of a difference. It's like there's relation, there's blood there.
Hmm.
No way,
Hmm.
no way, right? Like,
Hmm.
and so I want to know what do you see the psychological difference with you from the longer that you are in your weight loss journey? What's the difference?
From where I started.
Yeah.
Oof. So psychologically, I think it comes back to one of the things that we've already talked about, which is I have more control over this than I think I do, or even what I was told or taught that I have. And I think that is a crucial element because, again, it becomes the identity. I am this person. I just do this thing. It's just the way I am. I'm never going to change. I was born this way. I was meant to be this way. It's the only thing I know. And that
Yeah.
I know it's as silly as it sounds. It's like growth mindset. I mean, but sort of, because we have to be open to the possibility that it doesn't have to be that way just because it's always been that way. So I think that the first thing is like when I started, I was still falling back into patterns and habits and behaviors that I
Yes.
had always had because of like but I've never made it this far. Now I have to go almost self-sabotage and I have to go change this thing and I need
Oh
to
yeah. This works for both chronic illness too because I was
yeah,
there. I have self-sabotaged my own journey because I don't do well with success. I think that I think that the world is going to fall into a million pieces because I finally XYZ, you name it. Like I'm about to
yep,
graduate like NTP school. I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm not gonna be alive for that." Like what? Like over
yeah,
catastrophizing
yeah,
success because
right,
it's like I'm like afraid to have that because of da 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 da, right? But
yep.
yeah, that is 100%. So yes, over catastrophizing like and self-sabotaging because it's like I don't really deserve this, and it's like, oh my love, yes you do.
Yeah. Well, and that's, a lot of the things that I work on with the women that I work with is that exact thing. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times in the last month, so we're just going to take the last 30 days, that I have had conversations with women where we get to a point where it finally comes out of their mouth like, I can do this. Yes, you can. I
Mhm.
deserve this. Yes, you do.
Yes,
And
you
that's not
do.
me saying you need to say this. We get to a point where I tell them, you are worthy of this. Your children are
Yeah.
worthy of the best version of you. Your husband is worthy of the best version of you. But most importantly, all those things aside, why do you not deserve the best version of you? Why do you not get to sit at your own table? And I had one client literally tell me a couple weeks ago, she's like, I want to be my biggest fan. I said, I am stealing that because
Absolutely.
why are we not our biggest fans? Why do we look at ourselves? We poke ourselves, we prod ourselves, we pinch
Yep.
ourselves, we talk down to ourselves, we're mean, we're nasty, we are dirty. We say things to ourselves that we would never say to my daughter, to my mom, to my sister, to my best friend. And I'll say them to myself. Why am I
Yep.
not my biggest fan? And when I have that kind of stuff starting to come out, like, why do you not deserve this? And then it comes out, I do. I do deserve this.
Yeah.
That's it. So I think like the worthiness element, the knowing that it can be different. And I think that's the biggest thing is I feel like probably very much like you were talking about, like, well, once you're diagnosed, and it's like, well, we start to take on that identity. We start, well, I am the person that has XYZ. I'm just so and so with XYZ. I am insert whatever it is. And it's like, I have, okay, great. What are we going to do anyway? Well, how are we going to change your life anyway? Like, what are we going to do about this anyway? Because that's great. I love that for you. I'm so happy that you have that diagnosis. And now you can start to click pieces together and puzzle pieces. And you want to know what? Maybe
Yeah.
it makes you feel like you make a little bit of sense now, too. Like you're not
It
crazy.
does. And again, some
You're not a
people
crazy
really do
person.
need that diagnosis because it's like, yo,
Yeah.
there is something there now that like all these things that have happened to me, I'm not crazy. It's not just
Yeah.
anxiety. It's not just this. It's not just, it's like, whoa, there's an actual medical
Yeah.
description of
Yeah.
this. And it
Yep.
does. Like I said, 50% liver function is not a diagnosis. That's something that my doctor saw from I did a CCK slash HETA scan. That's what it's called. Um, Small little thing about that. I talk about this and I still get at least three people every single time I talk about it on a podcast. If I post about it, there's at least three, four people that are like, I've never heard of this. And I'm like,
Hmm.
go get it. Go get it.
Yeah.
Because it's so helpful to know what's happening from the time that you chew to the time that you exit.
Poo. Chew
Not
to
you
poo.
exit,
That's what
but
I
yeah.
I call it. Chew to poo.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Chew to
that.
poo.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think like that those are like the biggest things.
Mhm.
I think that at the end of the day, whether you have chronic illness, whether you're like me, somebody that struggled with being obese or constantly starting a diet every single Monday or something along those lines, from the time that you were really young, I feel like you have to, like the moment you decide, like in your brain, like it's done. I'm different. I'm different. I'm already
Yeah.
that person that I visually see, and you can try and you can try and you can try and you can try to stop me, but I don't care. I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done living this life. I'm done feeling this way. And then that switch happens, and it's like you don't know all the answers. You don't have all the answers. You don't know what's
Yeah.
going to play out. You don't know, but it's like,
Yeah.
but I'm done doing this. I'm done feeling this. And I feel like
Yeah.
once somebody has that type of switch and revelation in their brain, like even with me having gone through that weight loss and hiring a coach and adding 30 pounds and now trying to get, and my, here's the other thing I'll say, because I feel like there were still so many things I did in the front end that were probably still disordered. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need rice. I'll just eat cauliflower rice. You know what? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not eating cauliflower.
Mm-hmm.
Cauliflower rice is not rice. It's cauliflower. Cauliflower
Yep.
crust is not crust. It is cauliflower. So, and that's fine for people that need it and have to eat that way. But so I definitely think that I was still doing very sort of, I had slight disordered stuff still happening. And
Sure.
the last 2 years have just kind of been like, we talk about all the things going on in the world, and I just don't feel like I knew how to handle all this change that was happening in my life.
Bingo.
And I was like,
Bingo.
it's so much harder. And then I'm like, oh, it's definitely because I'm 40 and I've got to be in perimenopause. It's got to be all these things. It's like, stop being so dramatic. You know exactly what you need to do. You know exactly how this
Yes.
works. And for the last
Yes.
almost 40 days, I have like shown up in a way that I'm not over restricting my body. I'm still eating things that I love and enjoy. I'm eating full blown meals with vegetables and meats and rice and potatoes and all these different things, and without losing myself in the process, without just completely
That.
negating everything.
That. Y'all heard that? Without losing myself in the process.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's that's what happens. And I think if anything, I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like, and I just did like a whole recap of like my little April accountability thing that I did for myself,
Yeah.
where I talked about like things that I kind of struggled with, things that I thought were going to go well that went terrible, and things
I
that went,
read that email, by the way.
yeah, things that I thought
I
were going to
read
be,
it and it's so good. And that's what, Sarah, that's why you and I click. And that's why this episode even exists because you are so transparent and real. I want more people to be like that.
yeah. I don't know what to say about it. Like I said, earlier when I was like, I don't know what to say that, might hurt somebody's feelings, but maybe somebody needs to hear that. I know there are so many things that I have said that I wish somebody just ripped the Band-Aid off and be
Just
like,
said it.
listen, Sarah, like, let's go. Like, what are we doing here? So I think that
Yeah.
that is like a big piece of it. I don't know. I don't know if that actually answered your question. I went off on a whole tangent there, but
It did because it got to the exact thing that like that's where that connection is that we do whether it is binge eating, whether it is obesity, whether it is liver dysfunction, whether it is histamine load, whether it's thyroid. Please remind me, by the way, to talk about thyroid real quickly. By the way, just remind me. Okay, just thyroid, thyroid, thyroid. Do a Dory thing. Just keep repeating thyroid. But
all my notes.
yes, I love that. I love
Okay.
that. I love
All
you.
right.
I absolutely
I
love
love
you.
you too.
I'm so happy we're doing this.
I'm so obsessed with you.
I'm obsessed with you.
Okay, anyway. Okay, back to this.
Anyways. Okay. But whether what is happening in our bodies, right? Again, these are all adaptations that our body through genetics, through epigenetics, through multiple things, environmental factors, and then the foundational pieces of health, right? Through nutrient density, through blood sugar, through sleep, through stress management, through digestion, through all that, our body was like, hey, binge eating would be the best for you. Give it a try. Hey, your liver function at 50%, that'd be the best. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then the ripple effect happens, not the opposite. This does not happen in a vacuum. It's not like whoop, that's it,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
happens as again, once you understand what is called biological terrain, once you understand that, then you understand that everything that the body does, including cancer, including chronic illness, including weight, including even skin and skin health, hair loss, nail health, right? Bowel movements, all these things, these are all adaptations. Okay. This goes very much into fasting. I want to
Mm,
touch on this. A lot of people that do GLP-1 also do fast, right? And this is just a known fact, right? Because they are not hungry. And the thing about that is that that is double the risk that now that of that slow motility, of that slow exit, of the MMC cycle, right? So um that is a little bit more dangerous. Fasting needs to be done very, very mathematical. It cannot be emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Fasting, in order to actually have its effects, whatever you're looking for, whether it's spiritual clearness, right? Now we're talking about like I fasted for from pork meat for 40 days in the Great Lent this year. I've never fasted fully from any food in my life until this year. And I will tell you there's a lot of clarity that I gained. It was hell, I will tell you that. Not fasting from pork meat, but it was I cried. I cried. Sarah, you know the story. But there was a lot of things that happened that I don't there's no explanation except God. So I was like, I'm looking for that clarity. Whatever happens, happens. Right? Boom, done. Okay. That is something that I did not get any health benefits from. I can't
Right.
say I lost weight. I can't say my skin is clear. I can't say my hair grew 5 inches. Like
Yeah.
no health benefits,
Yep.
okay? I didn't sleep better at night. Like my
Nope.
subconscious was more clean or something. No, 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 no. Everything was fine, but I enjoyed the spiritual clarity so much that I'm practicing it. I
Yeah.
have this is something that I now stand firm on, that I don't completely avoid it, but I don't the rule that I made for myself is after experiencing what I experienced, I want to keep coming to almost this like clarity in my own mind and in my own spirit to say, hey, you're not going to go out and do that. You're not going to go out and seek pork meat. If that's the only thing that they have at like someone's house, okay, go ahead, right? If you're like at a restaurant and like I don't know, they ran out of like chicken, right? And like pork is the only one, like okay, it is what it is, right? There are things like that, right? That's what I fasted from, right? But again, spiritual clarity. It becomes um like how you were saying disordered eating when we're doing it for the emotions, when we're doing it for
Yep.
the weight loss, because that stuff can it's like a boomerang. It's going to
Yep.
come right back and it's going to keep coming harder and harder and harder because we're doing it for the emotions. We're doing it because of weight loss, because we're not understanding weight loss is not calories in and calories out. You know that, and you talk to your clients day in and day out about that. I want to peel back another layer about this calories in and calories out. This is also the way that our body adapts. When we talk about the Industrial Revolution, now this is like American history, right? We talk about the Industrial Revolution, and people quite literally overnight went from working sunrise to sundown to now working all day long under synthetic lights. Okay. And that has a really, really big effect on like preparing food. It has a really big effect on what kind of food we're eating, it has a big effect on sleeping, it has a big effect on stress management and all that stuff. Our body, guess what? It had to adapt because
Mm-hmm.
out of all the things that have happened in the Industrial Revolution, yes, people, went from like being super poor to like now they can afford a car, right? Like things like that. I always say that technology always comes with a price,
Mm-hmm.
always. And the thing about that, and coming back to this emotional flat line, is that is why to me this is the most important part because I cannot imagine again. I'm using me as an example because I could talk about my clients. I could talk about this stuff, but I just want to use me because I know me the best. I'm my own best practitioner. I'm my own best
Exactly.
doctor, right?
Yep.
So
For
I know
sure.
myself, right? And so um I cannot imagine, I cannot um it's hard for me to be like imagine if you didn't have, the two kids that you have. And it's like, what? Like that's crazy to me, right? Like And then imagine that I had them, but I couldn't enjoy them. I couldn't delight in my own kids. No, that's now going
Right.
to affect their relationships. It's going to affect their food relationship. It's going to affect their sleep. It's going to affect their own habits. It's going to affect their own mental health. And
Hmm.
so that's the domino effect because we think that epigenetics and genetics change because of XYZ, right? But we think that the process is much more, I don't know, like higher than us.
Yes.
Right? But that's a perfect example of how epigenetics changes. Just because
Well,
we're taking things like GLP-1 and we're taking them for a long time and we're this emotional flatness and we're like, oh my gosh, well, I mean, like the cure cannot be worse than the disease. We cannot be like, it's okay to be emotionally flatlined or it's okay that like I cannot feel love anymore. Mm-mm. I rather be, I think we discussed this, is it more dangerous to be, what was the question? To be obese or to be on GLP-1?
oh yeah. So I was curious as to like what is quote unquote worse? Is it because again, somebody made this blanket statement, and I'm like, here we are with just flatline statements that don't apply to everybody,
Yes.
but like it's
Yeah.
more
They kill me,
healthy to
man. The blanket
yeah,
statements. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It's more healthy to be on a GLP-1 than it is to be chronically obese or significant or morbidly obese or however you want to obese, we'll just say.
So they think
That
that
was
GLP-1 is more dangerous than being obese is
nope,
what they were saying.
nope.
Or the
Being
opposite.
obese is more
Huh.
dangerous than being on a GLP-1. Like it's
Hmm.
okay. Both are not great, but it's like lesser of the two evils. And in my opinion, is again, for me personally, I'm like, but once I start injecting that GLP-1, and now you have non-injectable GLP-1s that go into your
Uh-huh.
stomach that are just,
Correct.
I don't, different
Well, you got you
conversation.
got you got like Amari is making like GLP-2s, GLP-3s, and I'm
Yep.
unfollowing every single okay, PSA. If you are Amari and you're selling GLP-2s and 3s, we done. Peace.
Yeah. It's
Lesson release.
negligence. It's
Yeah.
negligence. I
Yeah.
just don't understand how we're so willy-nilly with pharmaceuticals. I can't go to my corner drugstore and just walk up there and be like, okay, I need cholesterol medicine. No, I have to have a script from a doctor that actually allows me to get cholesterol medicine. But yeah, people out here buying all this sort of shit. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But the way I see it is once I start injecting something into me that I don't really have control over that thing anymore, right? So for me,
Hmm.
it's like, yes, I understand obesity is not great. Obesity comes with a slew of other health problems. Understood. And I got that. But that is still in my control. And that's where I think I
Mm.
have the biggest issue is at the end of the day, like there are things that make people obese and choices that are made to make people obese. And I understand it because I was there. I totally understand it. I get it.
Yeah.
But at what point, again, are you going to sit back in the driver's seat and say, I may not be perfect and I still may be quote unquote overweight? I mean, I was technically still overweight when I lost 80 pounds. Like, if you want to get to the nitty
Hmm.
gritty on all that kind
Yeah.
of shit, that's again, different kind of
Yeah.
conversation. I wasn't overweight technically.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's like, but the moment you start putting your outcomes, I feel like, or your I don't know the word I'm looking for, your outcomes on, and now you're relying on something else to get you that outcome, but anything outside of yourself,
Yeah.
outside of something you have control. I'm not like where you go to somebody and you ask them for help. That's not what I'm talking about. But like I'm talking about where you start putting things in your body that you no longer have control over what happens once it goes inside. Because I've seen time after time after time that these injectables do not help people. They make things worse. You have people getting on this
Yeah.
medicine or that medicine, and it's like, whoa, I tried that and it was like really bad. And, so there's a lot going on there. And I just feel like which one is worse, or it's worse to be obese or it's worse to be on a GLP-1. And I'm just
Yeah.
going, for me, it's worse the moment I give something else my authority. Once I give something else my autonomy, once I give something else that control, to me, that's automatically worse. I'm
Okay,
not having
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here
it. Okay.
because the immediate thought that I had, because this is it's such a like without getting like too into like religion or anything like that, but there is a massive difference between Orthodox that live in America and Orthodox that live here in Romania. And I've been like battling and wrestling with like America Geta and Romanian Geta. It's like,
We are
oh
not
my
the same.
God, do I have like split personality disorder?
Like
Like, what is
we are not the same person.
yeah, I'm like, what is happening, right? And so I am battling, and one of the things that I'm battling with is this idea of flesh versus like autonomy, right? And so
Oh,
the control aspect is definitely something that I mean, that's why it took me 7 years to be food first after I tried elimination diets, after I tried juicing and all the cleanses, and after I tried keto, after I tried doing dairy free, after I tried doing all this stuff, because again, this was back when I was from 15 is when I got like I was worried, and then at 18 is when I got like, oh, by the way, you have a liver that functions at 50%. You'll be lucky if you get to 30. If you will, you'll be on dialysis. So that was at
yep.
18. I'm now 34, and nowhere near that. So like clearly something's working, right? But also it was hard to let go of the control of what I did know. And the brain wants evidence. The brain
Facts.
wants physical evidence. So it's a the immediate gratitude, or not gratitude, gratification, that immediate gratification is really hard to put aside when you're on any sort of health journey, especially when you do it how you do it with your clients and I do it with my clients. It is hard because some people do after like 2, 3 weeks, they're like, oh my gosh, like I finally am sleeping all night. Or like, oh my gosh, I can have gluten and I'm not bloated. What?
Right.
Right? Like sometimes it does happen, but it is rare. I have a client who I was telling her she has a histamine intolerance, and she has some liver dysfunction, right? And we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, your period is gonna, here are the things that you can expect. And I was basically telling her that she's gonna see her first normal period in 6 months. 2 months into working together, she's like, girl, my migraines have like disappeared. And I'm like, what? So like sometimes it does happen. However, the reality of it is that it doesn't. It takes a little bit longer. And so the brain wants evidence that something is working. Again, it's why it took me 7 years to be like, cut the
Yeah.
crap. I'm
Yep.
I'm sick of my own ish.
Crap.
Get it together.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know? And so the devil's advocate question is, how do we know that we are giving our autonomy to something like GLP-1? Because what if my body, again, I'm just
I got you. You're
you're the
good.
soundboard. There's someone thinking this. What if I really have tried everything, Sarah? I really have tried everything. Um, my obesity has called it is a systematic inflammation. Now that I've listened to this episode, I know that it is a systematic inflammation because it is affecting, my period. It's affecting my joint health. It's affecting my sleep. It's affecting my A1C. It's affecting my cholesterol, like da 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 da. And like I really do want to do GLP-1. And then like I'm really thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm sick of my body, Sarah. I'm sick of it. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to I want to wear jeans. I want to feel good. When I'm laying next to my husband, I want to feel hot, you know? I'm sick of it.
Hmm.
How do I know that I'm not giving my soul to something that I'm not supposed to give my soul to?
So, in my opinion, like this is just where I'm coming from, my
Yeah.
own
Yeah. This
experience.
is a discussion at this point. Yeah. Yeah, girl.
I mean, I feel like I've had those thoughts where I was like, I'll just gain weight to have weight loss surgery.
Oh,
I'll just
yeah.
get bigger because I'm not big enough. I'm
Yes.
only 240 pounds. So
Yeah.
I need to gain more weight if I want to qualify for
If I
weight.
want to,
I'll just gain weight.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here's the reality of that,
Yeah.
though, like having that thought process.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I didn't want weight loss surgery.
Ah.
I didn't want it. I knew deep down, deep down. That's why I never had it before. That's why I never gained the weight. That's why, I mean, like that
Yeah.
excessive amount of weight, if you will.
Yeah.
That is why, like at some point, again, I just feel like there was the switch, and it's like I was here, and this is the other thing I'm gonna tell you. So if you're listening and this is you, I love you. I say this with nothing but love. At 32 years old, I thought I had tried everything.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I did it all.
Mm-hmm.
I did every program, every diet, every restriction, every exercise, every
Yeah.
cardio program. I hired this person. I did
Yeah.
this. I bought this food. I did this thing that I was supposed to do.
The action
I
taking is never the issue.
Correct. I stood on my head, and spoon
Bounce
fed
five
myself
times.
upside down. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I did it all. I
Mm-hmm.
wrapped wraps around my belly with
Mm-hmm.
goo and saran wrap myself.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I did it all. You want to know what I didn't do? Didn't give myself any patience. I never gave myself grace. I never gave myself space to actually learn about food and
Yeah.
training and all of those things. I never
Yeah.
did those things. I just
Yeah.
did all the things that society told me I had to do. So, for the person, in my opinion, that when they sit there and they're like, I've tried everything, give me your list of diets, girl. Oh, have you tried healing your food relationship? Why, I just think about food all the time. I got you, girl. I know. I understand. I've been there. I've experienced it. I get it from somebody who thought they did it all until I always say, finally found the right way, which was the non-restrictive,
Yeah.
non obsessive way. It's like learning about myself again. Like, are you open to learning about yourself? Are you open to growing yourself? Are you open to, here's another thing people don't talk about. Are you open to shutting down people in your life who have been in your life who you realize you're not for my life anymore?
Yes, 100%. I know you're not asking me. I'm just saying that, like, going through the things that I've gone through, thank you, God.
Yeah,
Thank you so
and
much.
so that's what I say to somebody when somebody was like, yeah. And honestly, the biggest question is, have you hired me yet? Because if you haven't hired me, you haven't tried everything.
Boom. Boom. Yeah, I think, again, that's why I ask these questions, is because there's someone out there that really is sick of, their symptoms. There's someone that really is. And like I said, my client, she's one of them where, like, it did help her, but she used it for 6 months and that was it. And it was the lowest dosage the entire time. The
Hmm.
entire time. It was not a progressive thing. This was not meant,
Yeah.
it was not meant for weight loss. It was not whatever. I think that this is why I think there is a tool, the right tool at the right time, but you need to know the time and you need to know the tool. And I think GLP-1, to answer your question, ultimately. So I'm done playing devil's advocate. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. I'm done
This
now. I'm
is
done here.
this is that is what I think everybody needed to hear, is that, like, there is autonomy within the autonomy. There
Hmm.
is, and again, that's why after you do like a year with me, there's a lot more autonomy in, like, what your services look like, because there has to be autonomy. It's like, I'm no different if, like, you go to your doctor and it's like, well, this is what we're gonna do. And it's like,
Yeah.
I had no say in that. Like, what the heck, right? Like, you have a say, and I think it's even more. I'm gonna bring it back to this morning with my kids. My kids, I gave them choices of what to have in the morning. They're egg based waffles, Cheerios, and Cheerios in Europe, by the way, it's not the same as Cheerios in the States. I was like, what are these Cheerios? This Cheerios? What is this? This
Come on now. We got
tasty.
protein Cheerios now. We got prebiotic
Oh,
soda. Come on.
yeah, no, I saw the prebiotic soda. Have you seen the Tarragon water?
No, I just saw what you posted. No,
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. How about the
Okay.
hydrogenated water? Come on now.
My God.
You just put it in this thing that Gary Brecka sells, and and then it adds oxygen or hydrogen to the water where there's already hydrogen. It's very like mind-boggling to me. I'm like, H2O. I feel like there might already be something in there. What do I know? I don't have all those letters at the end of my name, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure
There might be something like that in this world, but I'm not
it
sure.
might just be water like that. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh
If
my
I put
gosh.
hydrogen in there, is that gonna, or if I oxygenate, that's not a word. If I put oxygen into this, is it
Yeah.
gonna? work in my body better? Is it going to oxygenate my cells more?
Yeah, man, just breathe 3 times. I think you're good. Um, um, what
Sorry.
did I want to
Okay,
say? What was I?
I'm
What were we
sorry,
saying?
not being devil's advocate. I'm sorry.
Oh
There's
yeah, that's what
autonomy
we were
within
saying.
the autonomy.
Yes, there's autonomy within autonomy, right? And so, done being devil's advocate. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That done being devil's advocate and just really to answer your question, is it worse being obese than being on GLP-1? My answer is if it's the right tool at the right time and you know your body like that, sure. I think GLP-1 does have a pros. Make sure that it doesn't become a con, right? Everything in this world, even too much water, you can drown.
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
drown yourself from drinking
Yeah.
too much water.
They
You
probably
know,
put too much hydrogen or oxygen in it, but who knows?
that's really what it was, Sarah.
Sorry. That's not fun, but
It's not funny. It's just,
but it's real,
but it's
unfortunately. This is
real. Yes,
then
yes.
we wonder
Okay.
like, why are people so confused? Well,
This is why, right? Like we don't even know what water to drink anymore. We're putting tarragon. If anybody has used tarragon, it is dill's cousin, like the herb dill. And it tastes similar, but with a little bit. Dill is like, I don't know. I don't know. It's similar but not. So like now put dill in your water.
I'll
Absolutely not.
pass. I'll pass.
Absolutely not. I don't care. I don't care
The
if
only
it
time I eat dill is when Jetta puts it in her spaghetti sauce, and I had
she
no
doesn't
idea
know.
that it was there. And I'm like, what is in here? She's like, oh, dill. I was like, dill? Man, this is good.
For background, she doesn't like dill, y'all. And I put dill because like again, I season my food with science and I know what's happening with it. And I know why I use dill and how I use dill for absorption, digestion, all the good things, and I put dill. One day she comes over and I was like, I'm gonna serve you. By the way, when I don't care. I don't care if you're my neighbor. I don't care if you just come for 5 minutes. Like I'm gonna give
You're
you
eating.
something. I don't
You're,
know. I don't know. Whatever I got. Whatever I got, I'm gonna give you something.
yep.
Maybe it's the
Yep.
Romanian in me. I don't know. But I gave her spaghetti, y'all,
So good.
and yeah, and she was so good. It was so good, and she's like, I don't like dill, and I was like, there's definitely dill in there though.
Yeah, I couldn't
So
taste
enjoy.
it. I thought
So
about
yeah,
adding it to like my own like kid stuff. Like I've started adding
yeah,
actually like ricotta cheese and just
yep,
telling my kids because it's creamier. It's like
yeah,
white, And I just tell
yeah.
them it's Alfredo sauce. They don't know.
They
And they're
don't.
not going to listen to this episode, so. But it's ricotta cheese. I'm like, yeah,
But how
absolutely.
funny that they do listen to it. Maybe like 15 years later.
That could be funny. I don't know if we'll make it through two
Like I
hours though
said, this
of us.
episode is gonna age unfortunately well. But yeah. So
But I'll be super honest though here, coming back to that, like you answered the question, is it the right tool? It could be the right tool at the right time, which is why I've had clients who have been on GLP-1s. And I think that, it's not like I had one client essentially be like, I wasn't sure you would even talk to me or work with me because I'm on a GLP-1 for type 2 diabetics. And I'm like, look, my job isn't to tell you what to do.
mhm,
That's not my job. It's never my job,
exactly.
especially when it
Exactly.
comes to a pharmaceutical, right? That's not
Exactly.
my my space. Um,
Exactly.
and she
If
did want
more
to come
people
off it.
understood that. Okay, go on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, and she had come off of this medication. She was actually trying to get off the GLP-1. Her numbers had dropped pretty significantly.
Sure.
And I wasn't really in agreement with how her doctor was doing it, but again, that's not my space. And so he just pulled her
Sure.
off of that and then put her on a different medication for something else. And she literally was texting me while she was out on a walk and she was like, my blood pressure is so high right now. I said, you need to get home. We need to get a
Hmm.
cuff on you. We need to see what's going on.
Hmm.
Come to find out that new medication that he put her on, side effects of that was high blood pressure. And she was like, Sarah, I could have probably had a heart attack if I wasn't working with you.
That
Exactly.
is,
Because again, for me, I'm not here to tell you like you should or should not be on this or that or how to do whatever. I'm going to guide you to the best of my ability. I'm going to help you if you want to get off some medications. I want to do those
yep.
things, but it's not my job to tell you, should I be on a GLP-1? I don't know. Should you? Is that ideal? Are you doing the back end work? Are you working with somebody to help you? Are you strength training? Do you have your nutrition in check? Are you healing your food relationship? Because you want to come off that GLP-1. I will tell you that. You don't want
Yeah.
to be on it forever, unlike everybody says you do.
Yeah. And like the tool being used at the right time, uh, out of the 10 times, maybe one time it is needed actually. And I
Hmm.
think that's like the end of that statement. And I think really the totality of my answer is that I think it can be a tool used at the right time and place. However, that right time and place for something like GLP-1 that can dramatically change your genetics, your genetic code. It can change your epigenetics in not the best way. It can bring out
Yep.
other things, right? If it makes you emotionally flatlined, where you can't feel loved, now we're talking about like pituitary gland, we're talking about hypothalamus, we're talking about like just really in-depth stuff, right? Most of the time, that's not the tool. So if
Right.
that's not the tool, then
I'm
what?
the tool. Like
Yeah.
me, myself. I got to figure this out then. I got to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I become
again,
that
in
tool.
between in between like being open-minded, in between, of course you gotta have growth mindset. Of course, that's like a given. That's a given. That's
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't think
But so
anybody
many,
to
so
this
many
episode
women
is
don't.
like you know, like I don't think anybody that wants to listen to this episode is like like is my neighbor. Okay. My neighbor, the one that like, out the gate. Okay. The full story, guys, is he came, I'm like sitting by the river. So we have the river out in front of our house. And my neighbor comes out of the gate and like literally, and that's like the weird part because he's such a gentle, quiet guy. And all of a sudden it's like poof. And I'm like, what the heck? And I turn around and this guy is like pulling up his pants and like fixing himself. And I'm like, what the heck? What, do I look? Do I turn back around? Like what, and you're kind
Was
of
this
just stuck
happening?
there. Yeah. And you're just like stuck. And then he goes, oh man, like I just gained 5 kilos overnight. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and I was like, yeah, you should probably do something about that, right? Like when people do that, like all I have to say is at least say hi, at least say something, because
Say hello.
yeah, right. I'm like, dang, that's a lot of info.
Information.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
here to enjoy my coffee, have a little Jesus time, that's all. Right. And then this guy literally out the gate. And then I was like, you should probably do something about it. And then he's like, yeah, it's probably my kidney stones. And there's a moment of silence. And then in the moment of silence, he takes a sip out of his beer. And like that's the thing that like there's nobody in the world that is that says, well, I shouldn't say anybody in the world, but I think we don't realize that sometimes we are self-sabotaging, but it's more of like, this is really comfy and this is what I know, so this is what it is. But that I think the way that I see things is that there are people, even professionals and even people that are doing weight loss or people that have chronic illness and chronic diseases, right? There is a really big gap. And I think people like you and I do think we fill in that gap. You have your own way of filling the gap through weight loss. My own gap is through inflammation and understanding what's called the PNEI cycle. All this entire time, that's what I've been talking about. It's called the
Right.
PNE cycle. And through all that, there is a gap, and that gap is between people that quite literally have like kidney stones or like they have diabetes to the point where it's like phase 4 diabetes, where now you have like toes being chopped off or legs being chopped off, and then like quite literally they just go to McDonald's right after their surgery. There's
Yep.
people like that out there, right? So there's people like that. Sure, there is, but I don't think they even realize that self-sabotage. It's like I'm
Sure.
so uncomfortable that like this is the thing that's going to bring me comfort. And then there are people that they're mostly my people, to be honest, because that's the way I was. It was a lot of hyperfixation and a lot of like perfection mindset. And it was like,
Mhm.
I have to do this juice cleanse and I'm going to get a gold medal in the juice cleanse. What do you mean there's
Yeah.
Olympics for the juice cleanse? I'm going to get
Right.
the gold. I'm going to do
Right.
it so
Yeah.
good because
I'm gonna create the medal. That's
I'm
what
going to
I'm doing.
create the
Because
medal.
there might not be medals, but there's about to be a medal.
There's about to be one, and it's mine. You know what I mean? Like, yes, truly, seriously, that is my own mindset. That really is. However, That is the gap. And through my own healing journey, and hopefully through this podcast episode, you understand that autonomy, purpose, alignment is very important in your health
Yeah.
journey,
Yeah.
because there's no point in in your health journey if you go on to do the thyroid. Oh my God, thyroid. I just remember thyroid because I
I
wanted to
had
talk
it
about
down
something.
here. Yeah, I
There's
had it down here.
there's no point in let's say the cure cannot be worse than the disease. I said this a little bit ago. The reason I said that is because the cure, let's say, is GLP-1 to obesity, to A1C, to EDS, to PCOS, okay, to SIBO, okay. These are all symptoms, right? So we're looking at that and we say, okay, that is the cure. Is it worse than the disease? Is it worse? And by that, I mean, there is, again, keeping in mind that the research out there is not nearly enough to state this, but it is worth something thinking about, because the research that is out keeps coming continuously out, that people that have a genetic predisposition to thyroid problems can actually develop thyroid cancer when they are on GLP-1. So that is one thing that, um, if emotional flatline, if that's not important to you, maybe that is type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, that if I were to lose weight, and again, I'm talking from the perspective that, again, I'm blessed. I am. I'm blessed in that sense that I do not know binge eating. I do not know that. I get hungry and I'm like, I want like a giant bowl of like a steak salad, and then I'll eat that and I'm like, oh my God, that was really big. So anyways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's me, okay? But I'm just talking from this perspective of like, there are things out there in this world, and that give this kind of introspection, introspect. What is it when
I think it's tro. I think it's tro intro.
Yeah, okay, introspection. Okay,
I
yeah,
don't actually know.
okay. We
I
know
don't know.
English, guys, promise. Um, um, but it can give us this like false introspection and being like, hey, you can be, 140 pounds, but it's like, is that worth it if I can't pick up my kids?
Yep.
Is
Yep.
that worth it if I end up with XYZ?
Yep.
And then on wanting to, or however I want to kind of explain this, but this is not at all my notes now. We're going so like unhinged
It's
now.
okay.
But it's just like there's things in like the pharmaceuticals where where they say the fine print, and like the commercial is like people laughing and they're like, ha ha ha, life is
Yep.
so great. And then it's like in the small print, and this guy's talking really fast and he's like, side effects could be death, blindness. And it's like, whoa,
Your whole
what?
pooper could fall out. It's
Yeah.
like
And you're like, whoa. And people still take this and they're like, see, the only thing that I got was Hashimoto's, for example. Like I didn't die. I didn't go blind. Not that bad. And again, that's the only thing that I say is that's based on perspective. If you think that that's the cure and you think that that's better than the disease, go for it.
right.
To me, that's not.
Yeah.
Whatever
Same.
it may be in this world, it means that.
Same. And that's why it's like as no at no point in time, and again, I have an episode on my intrusive thoughts about getting on a GLP-1 because I'm like it's so accepted now in health and wellness for peptides and GLP-1 and now as a
Correct.
coach if you're not on them like who are you? And like, you know, it's like every other coach is doing them, why aren't you doing them? And so I've had these intrusive thoughts but at the same time I'm like but no. Like
But no.
but no, like there's just I just cannot justify it. And it's something I actually said yesterday, and this I'm not trying to start like a whole conversation, but like it's wild to me how anti-COVID vaccine people were, but are completely willing to just shoot themselves up with whatever we got going on.
But some
So
people
it's
say that that's not the same because it's not a vaccine.
but it is the same. It's just different. It's just different things that you're putting in your body that are not studied enough, that are not studied on mostly humans, that are, I mean, you talk about all the peptide craze, all that stuff is all rats. I'm not a rat. I don't have the same
Yeah.
biology as a rat. I don't, right? So it's like, so it's great. I'm glad that the rats survived and now they're buff and they're awesome and they have no inflammation. I'm so great for that. That's so amazing for them. They're lean rats. Thank you. Lean rats. Great. They have no body fat. Wonderful. But I'm not a rat.
They
And
can dig through my house more.
seriously, like they will eat all my food.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just like it's I don't know. I just feel like it's just interesting to me to see this perspective shift within 4 or so years where because
Hmm.
GLP-1s, while they've been around, they have not been around in this space yet, and they just came out of nowhere like a wildfire. And I'm like, so wait a minute. Like you're the same person that's like completely anti, and again, I'm all about autonomy. I don't care what you do with your body. It's your decision. It's your choice. I don't care. But you are
Hmm.
literally anti-COVID vaccination and then anti-COVID every other thing. And then now all of a sudden you're just like willy-nilly just going to shoot whatever you want to in your body. Ma'am. Okay. Again, your
Yeah.
choice. I'm not going to sit here and judge you, but like how are we not seeing the when you talk about like zooming out, pull back a little bit. It's like how are we not seeing that at all similar at least? And it's quite scary in my opinion. So when I say that, it's like I've had the intrusive thought of like I'll just jumpstart on a GLP. Like literally, that was my thought. I'll just
Yeah.
jumpstart. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
jumpstart. I'm not doing anything. You want to know what the problem was? I wasn't paying attention to the food that went in my mouth. I was coping far too much with alcohol for the last 2 years. I was not interested in training or training very diligently or intentionally. I wasn't walking. I was maybe getting 6 or 7 thousand steps in a day. Well, gee, I wonder why nothing was changing. Well, because I wasn't doing the things consistently that needed to change in order to get the change that I wanted. Now, 5 weeks in, very different. So it's like understanding again, it's like I didn't need that to jumpstart my weight loss, but man, it felt good to think
Right.
I could just do it. I could just
Right.
do it. But then I
Yeah.
was like, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And
Yeah.
that's me. That's me. That's me. That's me. That's me.
That's me too, though. Again, with like chronic illness and stuff like that. Again, there's so many tools and food is so abundant. In the world that we live in, there's so many different types of like vitamin C. There's so many different types of proteins. There's so many different types of beans. There's so many different types of cheeses. There's so many different types.
Yeah,
And every single food has its own benefit. And
right.
so that's
Because
I
it's all
think
different. It's all made
because
up of
it's all
different stuff.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, that's where you get into like nutrient density and all that stuff. So absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think we should maybe end it. I don't know. It's only two
Okay.
hours
All
and
right.
20 minutes.
If you say so. Okay. Um, yeah,
So
this was
funny.
good. This was great. Guys, let us know what you guys thought about the episode. We want to hear some feedback. If you guys have any other further questions, comments, concerns, reach out to Sarah for like weight loss and stuff like that. Reach out to me if you have chronic illness, chronic symptoms, which again, that could be crisscrossed. This is why we did this episode. So if you do have that and you have both, reach out to both of us. I don't know. Maybe you could be lucky and you could be working with both of us as a team because that is something that we almost did with one of your
Almost.
clients. We
This
almost,
close.
but some personal
She
stuff got in the way for her for that
she has
client.
brought it up. She's brought it up again. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is definitely 100% doable, and it is a partnership that me and Sarah we love to do. We are literal friends, people. Like I said, she came to my house and I gave her spaghetti with dill, and she was like, "I don't like dill," and I was like, "Whoopsie!" So
And then she's like, "You're gonna eat it anyway,"
yeah,
and you liked
yes.
it.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting for her to come here to Romania to visit. And P.S. If anybody's listening to this and you're like, is Romania pretty? It is by far one of the most, we have the most untouched natural parks in all
So
of
pretty,
Europe.
so
Yeah,
pretty.
it is so pretty. It's so untouched still. Thank God. I want it to be like that. I don't know how much longer it will be like that, but I rest my case. Sarah, you
From
want to say
your
anything?
from your lips to his ears.
Yeah.
No, I mean, thanks for hanging on for this episode. It was a wild ride. We were probably all over the place, kind of like we just talked for like 2 hours last week, and now we're doing this week, and it's like no big
That's
deal.
right. Oh my God.
Yeah, we
Wow.
literally did. But
Wow.
that was more life. That was more life. But
Yeah.
I think that. I went to an in-person networking event this morning,
Oh, okay.
and it reminded me Jetta. That's where Jetta and I met, was at an in-person networking event, and we sat next to each other. And
Yeah.
typically, when I see people, just like I saw today, where they talk about like, oh, I restore metabolism, and I do, and I was like, and then
Oh
like
gosh,
Jetta.
you don't you did mm-mm.
So then, like, Jetta started talking. I'm like, oh no, she's like for real, for real. Like, she knows what she's talking about. Like, all those letters at the end of her name, that's why they're at the end of her name. And I was like, okay, I need to know her, not because of any other reasons. Like, this is somebody I can learn from. Like, I'm gonna learn from her
Oh,
because honestly though, like because it was like there's stuff that she knows that I know is out there, right? That I understand is exists, but
exists, yeah.
I don't know who knows it. But Jetta knew it. And I was like, that's my person. So if
Do
you don't follow her
you
yet, give her
remember
a
what it
follow.
was we were talking about? Because I don't.
So I want to say you were sitting on the left of me and somebody else was sitting on the right of me. And the
Okay.
somebody on the right of me made a comment about how she, quote unquote, like shouldn't be eating these things and like all this stuff because
Oh,
she. And then I was like starting to talk about like, well, you can eat what you want to eat. Just because I'm sitting at this table does not mean that you shouldn't eat the
yes.
things that you love and enjoy. And then that's when we started talking, and I don't remember
Yes.
what we were talking about, but that was the starter of the conversation because
I
I'm
remember
like,
that now. Yeah.
just because I'm a health person doesn't mean that you need to eat like a rabbit around me. Like, I like pizza, give me some pizza. Like,
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
remember that
girl.
now. Yeah, yeah. Someone made a comment about what they were eating. They're like, I shouldn't eat it. And then you actually answered back because I see that's the thing. That's why I think we clicked, is because okay, whatever the reason you liked me, that's awesome. Thank you. But I also liked you because you were very transparent and very real. And I was like, Mama, I like her.
Yeah, and I
Her.
wasn't an MLM
I
either.
want to play with her.
Yeah, which I
You
was
know?
really, again today, like when I was talking, it was like I had to be pretty like adamant that I'm like, I'm not an MLM company. Like I run my own
Yes.
actual business because that was such a huge
Yes.
thing. And so I think
Yes.
that's another piece that you and I connected on because we're like, we're tired of these people selling all these things that aren't actual businesses and they don't
Yep.
actually know what they're doing and they're not actually certified or trained in anything. And it's like, what are you doing? It's so,
Yeah.
again, negligent is the word I use, but.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's us.
There we are. That's us in a nutshell.
Thank you
But
guys
yeah,
for
yeah,
listening. You guys are
for entertaining.
awesome. Again, this will be posted on both podcasts, but until then, guys, rest but don't quit.